evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio, your old friend Virgil back once again for another exciting episode of the podcast. Let's just say a very special episode of the podcast, as you guys have come to know the only podcast dedicated to the love and revival of our beloved drive-in culture. Joined as always by my co-host and general manager extraordinaire, Mark. Say hello, Mark.
Hello.
Joined as well by owner, projectionist, king of the Mahoning, Jeff. Say hello, my friend.
What it is.
What it is. Well, I'll tell you what. It is a celebration as we reach a milestone. Can you guys believe this is our 100th podcast episode? What? Are you kidding me?
Wow. That is great. That is great.
It's mind-blowing. We were just talking about how quickly this season blew by, specifically our 2023 season. But to think we've done 100 of these podcasts, going back, we launched the podcast March 16th, 2021, the same day that we launched our Patreon initiative. And it has been one of the most rewarding projects that we've done. It has reached well beyond any of our expectations, not just the audience, but what it could be. It has shifted and pivoted just like our business has many times over again, from celebrity guest interviews to get to know the staff interviews to the owners series, which we've talked about many a times as one of the greatest connections to our living, breathing cinematic landscape. We have been able to tap into something that started as just like this outfit, a dream of, hey, do you think this is something that people could or would get into? And they took that ball and just ran with it so much further than we could have ever dreamed. It's very similar to the situation we have at the Mahoning, where it's just fed with love constantly. And I have to give Mark a humongous hats off as the Uber producer of the podcast. When we started, it was about, okay, let's get to know the Mahoning crew. Let's talk about shows and upcoming events. But structuring that, scheduling that, making that presentable to our audience, that is 150% Mark at work. It's become his baby. And the growth of it, the reach of it, is truly a stamp because Mark's love. So what are you guys thinking now that we're hitting our 100th episode? What a ride.
I'm thinking that it's all a lie. And you know why it's all a lie? Because we've actually done more than 100 episodes. We got up to episode 99 and it's like, with the next one that has to be released really kind of has to be released because it's promoting a show. So I call that a special episode. So if you go back, we've actually done what we call special episodes. And what I told the guys, we're laying it all bare tonight. What I told the guys was, we're going to keep releasing special episodes until we finish the 100th episode.
Okay.
It deserves.
So technically, this is probably like 105. But as far as anybody listening is concerned, it is the 100th episode extravaganza.
How about you, Jeff? How about your memories on the this whole outfit and project with the podcast?
I'll tell you what, I was hesitant at first. I didn't think it was going to take off like it did, just because there's so much social media out there and everybody's got a podcast and everybody's doing this. And I thought, yeah, well, we'll get some listeners, we'll get some people tuning in, but I'm really impressed. It just really took off because I know as a disc jockey and working in radio for years that, number one, we make it interesting. Even if it's just the three of us, even if we don't have special guests, we make it interesting. And the other thing is the fact that we all have decent radio voices. We all could be like on the radio. Nothing's worse than, well, and then we did this, and then we did that, and then we did, with no, inflection or tonal stuff. But the fact that we put out a good quality show has really done it for us. That's a compliment to the three of us. and to our guests too. It's been a great success.
I will say one of the reasons we all sound so good and everybody sounds so good on the show is that I edit this show like a surgeon. I edit this show like it's a word processor. So every stammer, every idea that goes nowhere, nobody ever hears it.
That's a huge part of it too. Yes, is the way you edit it, because some podcasts sound very unprofessional, and the way you edit our podcast sounds excellent.
Well, it's so funny because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and part of what we do here is always like, I don't want to do what I don't like about other podcasts, but most podcasts don't really edit that much. And I listen to them, even like really high end shows, and I hear so many ums and uhs and dead air, and I'm just, why didn't you cut that out? Why didn't you cut that? Because like most people don't do it as obsessively as I do, and it makes it a little harder. It makes me like almost on edge when I listen to other podcasts. I'm like, oh, that should be taken out. Oh, they should have taken that out.
I think it really helps, just like what we do here on the lot at the Mahoning, that this was something that was kind of born out of necessity. We became a one of a kind with our approach with this podcast and making it very drive-in centric and really going after this niche audience that we've been lucky to gain a voice in, and having an audience embrace it like they have here at the Mahoning has been such a thrill, like Marcus talked about, hearing people talk about or listening to the podcast on the lot or coming up to us and quoting things from the podcast. It's very much like the drive-in experience and the appeal of its culture. It kind of becomes a part of you, these shows, and it becomes very intimate when it's something that you can do in your free time. You feel like these people are kind of with you, and very much like the appeal of Dazed and Confused for some people, or it's like going back and revisiting old friends or any movie. I think that has really crossed over with what Al Manelli was able to give us with the documentary, which shined a light on all of our personalities as well as our missions in this whole game.
That's the Emmy Award winning Al Manelli now, by the way.
That's right. I'm sorry, Al.
Yeah.
Let's start shifting that. And this was an extension of that. People would come to the theater wanting to know how we were doing and, how old Virgie was now or where Jess is or whatever the case is. And this was a way for us to keep that audience that cared, keep them with some material to grab onto every single week and stay in touch with us. This is the way that we hang out in the projection booth. We could turn on a microphone and it would be us very much chatting like we do on the podcast or with the folks that we have on the podcast. So
sometimes I wish I could just take out my phone and start recording the conversations. Like, this is too good. We're wasting it. We're wasting it, not recording it. The original idea was to record these in the projection booth at the end of a night after, a show was over and everybody had left. But our nights run so long and we are so tired, and so many people, which is a good thing, hang out after the show, that we would be starting these things at like 3 a.m. some nights, and we would be good for very little eloquence at that point. So we do these on a day that we're not at the theater usually. Sometimes Virgil's at the theater on an off day, and we're all at home. And it audio wise, it works a heck of a lot better. It would be cool. We did try to record one when we did with Carl and Daryl in the projection booth once, but it was just too noisy and too awkward.
Yeah, very noisy. Yes.
Yeah. And we knew what we wanted to do when jumping into this thing. We knew kind of what the platform would be, but having it shift, I think, has been like, again, the connection to what we do here at the Mahoning, being able to pivot with everything that's been tossed at us since 2021. It's been so amazing. And the thing that I love about podcasts in general is it's a timestamp. We can go back and relive these memories that sometimes get lost in the shuffle, but we have a living account of all of us getting together with the people that we love and the people that breathe the life into the Mahoning and give them the spotlight. It's unlike any other business out there,
Right.
I was saying it to Mama Beth the other day, just about how amazing she is with the customers, and she's truly become like a personality. Everybody knows her as Mama Beth. And same thing with the projection team, like the fact that our customers know them all by name. They look at them like rock stars. It's such a unique love for what we do that doing the podcast felt like a natural progression for us. Same thing with the Patreon. It was almost like we got too much on our plate, too much to share, and we needed another platform to focus in the hyper fans, the ultra fans. And Mark, why don't you talk a little bit about that? This has been a co-launch with the Patreon.
The first episode, when I look back, actually was announcing that we were going to do Patreon. And Patreon is just a way to give people a little something extra and allow them to support the theater year round. I sell the Patreon at the end of so many of these episodes, so I'm not going to necessarily do it right here. But it's a way, as you said, we have so much we want to share and get information we want to get out and fun we want to have. And it doesn't all fit in a social media calendar that really has to be focused on promoting upcoming shows. Because if people don't buy tickets to shows and show up, it's the economic food chain. If they don't buy tickets, they don't buy food. If they don't buy food, we don't stay in business. So the main Facebook and Twitter and Instagram tends to mostly be about that. So with Patreon, we can dive deeper into things and share different things and have like sort of virtual events and all this other kind of stuff. And that sort of was the idea partially with the podcast too, is like we want to, the last episode, the last officially numbered episode 99 the special episode. Technically, it was episode 100 or 103. The special episode with Tom Shabilla, where we talked about Universal Monsters, that was a way to promote that show, but it was also a way to just learn and have fun and just dive in on something we care about. And we do that as often as we can, where we'll have a guest related, Austin Trunick, who comes on and talks about canon films when we run those. Those are really cool and fun ways to promote a show. And that's not the kind of thing we really could cram into our social media necessarily. I mean, we share the link to the podcast, but that's it. And the other idea for the show for me was to pull back the curtain and let people see how a theater runs, let people see how a drive-in runs, and especially an all retro, all 35 millimeter drive-in. I've always been fascinated by how theaters run and finding out why things are the way they are. Some people who have complaints about things, I think it's generally because they don't understand why something is. And we're always more than happy to explain why something is the way it is on this podcast, or dive into the failures as much as the successes and talk about how things work and what we're hoping to do and what we tried to do and what we failed or succeeded at doing. And people really appreciate that. I've seen people talk about that on, it was actually on, after the Joe Bob ticketing debacle from a few years ago, somebody had posted on one of the socials where people were complaining about the ticket site crashing and all that. They had said that these guys do a podcast and they're very honest about how things work and upfront about it. And I thought that was really cool that they appreciated that we got into the nitty gritty. And that's what I've heard from a lot of the fellow drive-in owners that we have had on the podcast, and of which we will be having many more in the future. They really appreciated somebody who knew the pains, as it were. They said to that, either when we were on the air or off the air, they had said it was nice talking to people who understood what it was like to run a drive-in.
That's what I've said from the beginning, is keep the people informed.
Yep. Always. With situations where prints don't show up damaged. That's always been our best foot forward effort, is to say, as long as we respect the audience, let them know what's going on.
Right.
They are on board with this ride with us. And there's certain elements that are out of our hands. But going back to what you said, Mark, what a gift to us to have a platform to be able to speak directly to the audience. Like when we were talking about why we sell out at certain numbers and how we've grown to certain expectations, that is incredibly unique, again, for a business to have beyond their social media where they can kind of write it all out. To be able to use our voice has been such a gift. And thinking about that, I just did an interview with Box Office Pro talking about the fandom that surrounds the Mahoning Drive-In Theater and the elements that make the Mahoning Drive-In Theater so special. And I think you can't really put your finger on exactly what makes our outfit stand out. It is this destined divine mashup of all of our personalities, all of our talents combined to present something that is incredibly unique. And I think, again, the podcast allows us to open that up to an even wider audience than can reach us on the lot. We have people that are fans of this podcast that could never, would never come to the theater, but they just love the drive-in culture.
Let me read to you from this list of countries around the world where people have at least started listening to our podcast before they got fed up with it. United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, Germany, Ukraine, Ireland, Puerto Rico, South Africa, India, Sweden, Romania, France, Spain, Israel, it keeps going. Now, those numbers aren't big, but it blows my mind that somebody in another country would want to hear anything we had to say about this drive-in in the middle of nowhere. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
That's excellent.
It's so special, to be able to reach out like that. And the fact that it is a place that you can go if you love drive-ins and the drive-in culture, it's one of the reasons I love podcasts. And there's so many of them, like you said, Jeff, but in a way that's a good thing. Like, people are so into what they're into and so passionate about what they're passionate about that they'll go out of their way to find that material that feeds their love and their passion.
I agree.
Again, feeling so blessed and lucky to have gotten to a point where this voice means something. I was thinking about it again with everything going on at the end of the season. It's been the through line with my entire life. The performing on stage, singing, running a company, being a salesman, being a leader here, having that voice and that ability to connect with people has served so well, and having that extend into the business and who we are and what we're known for is such an added rewarding element to this thing. It feels like I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it feels like we've been prepped for this. Like, things we've done before all of this leads up to the fact that we put on a huge show every night.
Well, I've said that for years. What I do right now for the Mahoning, it's like everything that I've done before that led up to this. Like, I've literally drawn on everything I've ever done working here in every job I've done, and this one's more fun than all those put together. So it's kind of ideal.
Yeah,
and that's a good explanation of it, and it's important because I've run many theaters, indoor and drive-ins, over the years, and this one is special. And I knew it too from the beginning. It's just that in 2001, when I started, I didn't know it would take this direction. I thought, well, we're first run, we'll always be first run, nothing's going to change. Nobody was really pushing digital yet in 2001. They say, oh, it's coming, but it's a good 10 years away. So I never dreamed it would wind up here, but the way we all handled it, and the way, like you said, we brought our individual talents to it, has made it what it is, and I thank God for that. We've done what we've had to do, and it's worked out well for us.
Absolutely. And I think, again, with the crossover with the unique aspects of what we offer and the podcast, we hear people say all the time, this is the most accessible theater, that they've ever been to, as far as you can really sit and chat and come and talk to somebody about the operations on site. We'll bring you into the booth and, give you a little bit of a lesson as far as that goes. And with Mark becoming the general manager at the Mahoning, it really was having the assistance of having somebody always there to be that smiling face that's welcoming you into the family. That's something I learned again along the route with good owners and bad owners and things like that is, a good owner and good manager will make themselves known. They will, make sure that their customers are feeling appreciated, that they are feeling welcome. And at the Mahoning, you get that as soon as you hit that gate, and every single person that you come across has this overly welcoming appeal to the experience. And that's why I think this thing goes so much deeper than, hey, I love drive-ins. It really becomes a way of life. Like, this is a simpler time in a lot of ways. Like, there's a lot of madness going on in the world, and to be able to come to a place where it's like, oh, this is driven by kindness and, a welcoming nature. What a weird show.
It's true. What we're doing is we're showing people how we do it. And part of it that goes back to the whole, we're 6 months open and 6 months closed. We've said before, you need that time off in order to regroup, get ready for next season, get your bookings in order, know what you're going to play, at least roughly, the next season. We're showing people how we do this, that it's like you said, it's an open thing where anybody can come in and talk to us and get a little tour, get a couple of answers to their questions, stuff like that. That's what we're doing, is showing people how we do that.
Oh my goodness. Look at this. Joined by projectionist extraordinaire, Mr. Michael Drumboard. What's up, Mikey?
Hey!
Welcome to the podcast. 100 episodes, dude.
Damn.
It's crazy, right? It is crazy to think that when this thing was launched in mid-21, that, it would gain as much love and respect and listenership and all that stuff. Where do you lie with the podcast? You got any memories?
I always like listening to the other theater owners, just hearing what other theaters do and how they've been making it work.
Yeah, it's an inspiring situation with these owners opening up, because it's been a way, like we were talking about, to connect to this landscape of cinemas across the country and beyond. To have that love and respect where people come on and they are all in on what we're doing, it just reaffirms even more that we're on the right path.
Absolutely.
So what print are you expecting right now?
Well, I just finished working on Redacted for tomorrow night.
Redacted.
Thank you. That is a respectful way to refer to. We do these Patreon screenings for the Simplex members, the highest tier members, when we're the 6 months that we're open. So we do 6 of them, and it's prints from our vault or prints from fellow collectors, and it's a mystery. So I give a little bit of a clue as to genre and decade, but we don't tell anybody what it is, and you don't know it until you see it. So I respect that even though this will go out after that screening, nobody's going to know what it was unless they were there.
Gotta be there.
Yeah, that's right.
But actually, right now, I'm working on that box of goodies you gave me, Mark.
So we can tip the hat as to what that is. I purchased through Facebook Marketplace. A friend of mine clued me in that this guy had a box of stuff that came from a former projectionist, and it was all just like coming soon and snipes and PSAs and the kind of stuff that we love, vintage theatrical clips and advertisements and things. And I just bought it sight unseen. I think it was like $30, and it was this hefty box full of all this stuff. And they came in the original Filmac boxes and the original projectionists' notes, and it just fascinating stuff. So Mike is putting some of that together to play at our Simplex show. For our Simplex members at these Patreon shows, get to see stuff before anybody else does. If we get new trailers, we play them there first. We get new prints, we play them there first. So it's a heck of a lot of fun. And Mike's been sort of my right-hand man, or right and left-hand man, projection-wise for this season's shows.
I do have to interject. When you say some of it, all of it. I've got about 3/4 of a reel filled already.
Nice.
I've been itching. I forgot I even had this stuff. I've been itching to watch this stuff for like a couple of years now. And in the beginning, I would take one and we'd throw it in one here and there. But this is just going to be this endless explosion of all these things going. Starts Wednesday. French fries, polio, that kind of stuff. Just strung together.
Yeah, think all the something weird, hey folks, it's intermission time compilations.
Nice.
But in real time.
I don't know if we talked about it since you've last been on. You have a whole setup in your house now to inspect film, like a rewind bench and everything.
Yeah, it's a little nuts, but it's needed.
Film has taken over your life, Mike, and I love it. It's part of your soul.
And what I love is I always have to reiterate this to everybody. When did you start projecting film?
1.5 years ago.
Boom.
You should have saw the workshop a week ago today. I had nowhere to move. I had 9 of the prints for Exhumed Horrorthon here at my house to get inspected for the show.
That's what you have to do now, because we have several projectionists and we have so much film coming in and out. You almost can't do it all at the theater itself. It's this one rewind bench. It's hand wound except for the rewinder. So really the fact that you guys can take it home, and pretty soon Robert is going to have an electric rewinder bench in his house too. I bought one for him. So pretty soon it's going to go even better, especially for Robert. But yeah, there's so many films coming in and out. Now you really can't do them all at the theater.
No, and working a full-time day job and living 40 minutes from the theater, it's not conducive to go there for my schedule.
Yep. But when you think classic drive-in programming would be 2 movies over the course of a week or a weekend, but for some of our weekends where we do an exhumed show that's 2 triple features each night, you might have 10 movies over the course of a weekend. It's atypical, shall we say.
Absolutely. And we level up every year. Last year I think we hit 200 prints over the season, and I have a feeling we got to be really close to that this year. So we've had customers reach in, fans of the Mahoning reach out and leave messages to us, kind of talking about what the Mahoning means to them. Obviously, we've been through so much together over these last couple of years, and things really do sweep us up during the season. And when we come out the other side, we try to assess what went right, what went wrong, and try to push forward. So with your perspective as somebody who came into the fold, what'd you say, just about 1.5 years ago?
As far as running film, yeah.
Where does your heart lie with this puppy?
I love it. It's, my childhood drive-in, as many know. I've been coming here for the better part of 25 years.
Wow.
Okay. 26 years, something like that. The vast majority of my life. So having this place still existing and still thriving is very important to me.
Yeah, you could do a whole show on that alone. Yes, it is. After all these years, 74 years, and it's still there. Yeah, it is kind of amazing.
Just seeing all the staples of my childhood, adolescence, and young adulthood living in Lehigh pretty much evaporating over the decades. The Mahoning 8 cinema just closed.
Yep.
There's not as much left from when I was a kid anymore. So the fact that, some places are still existing, thriving, and doing what they've done for decades is important.
You're darn right. Yep.
How about as far as your position as a projectionist? We talked a little bit before you jumped on how unique it is that people truly care about not just our mission here at the Mahoning, but who we are and what we give to the theater. Have you had any experiences as far as being in that position and having to own that position?
I mean, I love being able to give education. People who've never seen or have no frame of reference for how film is shown or was shown for the bulk of the history of cinema, from actual film prints, a physical process instead of just pressing play. I love the education aspect, being able to show people, hey, this is how your movies got onto the screen for over 100 years. I think being able to educate people, especially younger kids who their frame of reference for movies is picking something off the Netflix queue.
Right, or throwing in a DVD and just press play.
There's an element of education there that really goes so far with the fan base, especially the young fan base. We all had these experiences when we were younger, when we fell in love with the drive-in and its appeal. And we see it almost every single night that we're open. These kids falling in love with the atmosphere and what it's all about. And the parents who really appreciate us taking the time with them and making sure it's a really special experience. Why don't you talk a little bit about the 35 millimeter and the love of 35 millimeter, the kind of rabid love that we see here at the Mahoning and what that means to you?
It's real film. It's how movies are meant to be seen. Movies that were shot on film should be at least theatrically watched on film, being able to present them how in the true nature of how the filmmaker intended. And plus what we do, and in conjunction so much with Exhumed, is we're showing movies that you quite honestly can't see otherwise. Pulling out rare titles, deep dish stuff that you're not going to be able to find online, or in some cases, you can't see it at all. It's that film print or nothing.
There's a level of responsibility that you guys take, with this position. It's really inspiring on a regular basis to see you guys do what you do and shine in your positions, because there is a mastery to it. The fact that you are working with rare elements in this case, it's a beautiful thing.
Right. And they have to do it at a certain level, because the worst thing you can do is take somebody's prized print, whether it's Harry or whether it's another private collector, or maybe even a studio, take one of their prized prints and then project it and damage it and say, oh, sorry, but we got to send it back like this. No, you want to send it back exactly the same way you got it, or even better if you fix a mistake that's already there. So it's important for these guys to do it at a high level, and Michael certainly does.
The proficiency with the film reports, communication with the studios, staying up on top of where these prints are heading to. There's so much to juggle, and having you guys be so beyond professional with the handling of the prints has been amazing.
That's where we're at. Studios aren't striking new prints except in very specific cases. So right. A good example is the print of Die Hard that we got to show earlier this year. I remember talking to you, Virg, pre-season when you were looking to book it, and the studio basically said, it's in rough shape. Do you still want it? But that's the only print that was gettable easily of Die Hard. I thought it looked great on screen. It needed a lot of work to get into a projectable condition, but now I hope that print can get loaned out more and seen by more people again.
Yeah, you guys are like, bring on that challenge. I love that mentality of these prints are leaving here better than they came.
Exactly. That's what's important. And by doing that, if they get seen or projected more often, then that's just great for everybody. And hopefully when we get it back again, when we want to run it again, it's in just as good a shape as we sent it back.
Do you see it, Mike, where it's a community as far as the 35 millimeter projectionists and how rare that is anymore?
I'm always talking to other projectionists on a professional level and just as a social level of what I saw, what's interesting. There's a great page on Instagram called the Leader Lady Project. It's run by the Chicago Film Society, and they basically are documenting leader ladies. And for those who don't know, they're usually about 4 frames on the head leader of a print used in the lab process to get your color timing set, to make sure that's all accurate for when the print actually gets struck.
Right.
And there's so many different variations on it. Different countries had different ones, weird mannequins, weird man and wife sitting together, all kinds of interesting things. So they run an Instagram page documenting as many of these as they can. So whenever I come across something interesting, I'm always sending it in and talking with them about what I'm doing and what they're doing at the same time.
Absolutely. I think the fans appreciate the behind the curtain aspect as well when it comes to the projection booth. Not only inviting people in, allowing them to ask us questions, but how open we've been with sharing the images of the prints this year. You guys have done a great job with getting some great photos, really selling the unique aspect of what we offer in that every single night it's 35 millimeter.
It's important if you're running film to, especially if you have a really good looking print. I know in the lead up to last night, I had heard some people were expecting raw meat to look like a typical red faded grindhouse print, when in fact it's a gorgeous IB Tech print with stellar color throughout. So being able to show people that, hey, not everything is going to be beet red and faded when you're dealing with older grindhouse films. I mean, in a lot of cases it will be, because that's the nature of film. But when you got something different, it pays to be able to entice people with that who want to see good color.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to add, Mike, before I give you your outro?
Just chopped the head off a beautiful, never played Astrodater for the Patreon show.
Explain to anyone who doesn't know what an Astrodater is.
If you are familiar with anything released by the Grindhouse Releasing Blu-ray label or a lot of Quentin Tarantino's films, the Astrodater is that swirly image with the KPM track Funky Fanfare. So that was a dater made by National Screen Service.
Right. Yep.
They had Coming Soon, feature presentation. The one I have right now is Start Sunday.
Previews of coming attractions, etc.
Midnight Show, all of them. I think I had a children's matinee one earlier that's on this reel somewhere.
The stuff that we love. And I love that it's being unearthed. You know, you guys truly are doing the Lord's work. I mean, this stuff could be sitting in a basement somewhere getting no love. Instead, it's at the ultimate show place.
Yeah, this stuff was made to be played, and it should be played.
That's right, babe.
I agree.
Well, we appreciate you like crazy, Mikey. Thank you so much for being part of not only the 100th episode celebration, but a part of the Mahoning family, essential part of the Mahoning family. Give Kate our love, and we'll see you soon on the lot.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The management of this drive-in theater is happy to announce you can enjoy your favorite form of movie entertainment regardless of rain. No longer will it be necessary to let rain spoil your fun. Now you can keep your windshield clear and dry with a drizzle guard. Simply attach it to your windshield, and in a jiffy you're enjoying the movie without constantly running your windshield wipers. A drizzle guard will save you gasoline and wear and tear on your batteries. After the show is over, all you do is take off your drizzle guard, roll it up, and it's ready to be used again, just like an umbrella. So next time it rains, don't sizzle in a drizzle. Get yourself a drizzle guard and enjoy the show. Drizzle guards are on sale now at the concession center.
So in anticipation of this 100th episode Mahoning Drive-In Radio podcast extravaganza, we put it out to our public. If you want to send us any messages about what the podcast or the Mahoning means to you, or send us any recipes or golf tips, please do so through our there's a website. It's I couldn't tell you what the URL is right now because it used to be really simple, then it got a little bit complicated. But if you find us online, there is a button on our official podcast page that says voice message or leave a message, and you can leave a message that's up to 60 seconds long. So what I tell people, and you can do this anytime you want for any of our shows coming up. If you have a question, if you have a comment, whatever, stories, drive-in stories, we always love those. It limits you to about 60 seconds, but you can leave multiples. And as far as anybody is concerned, some of these might be multiples that you're about to hear. As far as anybody is concerned, I cut them together. They sound like one long stretch, so don't worry about that. So first up, we have Mr. John Demmer. If you don't know who John Demmer is, you need to know who John Demmer is. John Demmer is the man that was responsible for the Evil Dead cabin. That's how this whole outdoor photo op started. He made a replica of the Evil Dead cabin for Bruce Campbell, and it was amazing. That he redressed that. He and JT and the production gang redressed that as a cabin from like the Frankenstein movies for Universal Monster Mash. He created the Nightmare on Elm Street house for us. He created the Myers house for us. He most recently created the John Waters Pink Flamingos trailer for us for the John Waters event. He's a master carpenter, historian hero of Nutley, New Jersey, Mr. John Demmer, with these musical words.
Hey, everybody. This is John Demmer, and of course, I'm a huge fan of the Mahoning. Some of you may know me and my wife Cindy for helping to build some of the production sets for certain movies or for decorating our car, which we do for just about every show. I was asked to give my feelings on what makes the Mahoning so special for me. And first, of course, is the people. Whether it's the management, the staff, or just the patrons themselves, everyone there is just so friendly and outgoing. Second for me is the ability to contribute to some of the shows. That's whether I'm doing a set or a cosplay. It's always so rewarding to see people enjoying themselves, waiting and wanting to get a picture of a set or of Cindy and I in costume. even when they come up to the car and ask if they can take a picture, is such a compliment. It makes us feel good. Lastly, it's the overall atmosphere. I know that I haven't mentioned movies yet. That's because for me, the Mahoning is not just a place to see movies. It's a place to be a part of something more. I jokingly call it a karma car wash, where when you come through those gates, all your problems can be forgotten, even if it's just for a little while. I don't know of any other drive-in where people will come 2, 3, even 4 hours ahead of time, maybe to just meet up with friends, see a special guest live, to get pictures on a set, or just to be a part of a family that understands and gets what a drive-in experience really should be like. Anyway, it's a very special place for us, and I hope to see you all there soon again. Thank you.
Wow. That was absolutely beautiful, John.
Very nice.
Love you, Cindy. We love you. What you guys bring to the theater is beyond words. You know, it really has elevated us to a whole other level, and people have taken notice of that in a big way. What a beautiful attitude, you know, to have, to really love to be a part of it for the people and the community and what this overall push is all about. You know, they are so pure-hearted, you know, they're a perfect fit for what we do. And whenever they're here, they're such a treat. They're so loved by the crew, and obviously the fans have grown to love them immensely.
I forgot to mention in the little preamble there, he did the display, or they did the display for when we ran A Christmas Story, where he recreated the Parker living room in the corner of our snack bar, and it was unbelievable. He's a huge Christmas Story fan and has a gigantic collection of prop replicas and things like that. And beyond that, there's a point where I'm in the projection booth, and out of the back room comes John dressed in the Ralphie silver cowboy outfit with the with the Red Ryder shotgun, and he's completely in character, looking around, looking for the bandits, and I just lost it. I doubled over laughing. They're very, John and Cindy are amazing and a tremendous asset to the organization.
Yeah, his picture in my phone is him dressed as Damien when we did The Omen. He's just. They go above and beyond and are the perfect example of the perfect Mahoning fan, somebody that can truly embrace it. And again, what he brings to the shows as far as the sets, it's a whole other level. It really is.
They did a display for when we ran The Big Lebowski, and they had the toilet on a little piece of like linoleum or tile with the bowling ball next to it. And was it the ferret? And there was a photo of him dressed pretty accurately as the dude with the big sweater and all the hair on a really hot day, sitting on the toilet. And it was, I mean, not like in a gross way, like sitting there, like contemplating life. And it was just, it's pretty wonderful.
It's like the melting pot here, you know, like, again, what's magic? It's everything combined. And personalities like that are a big part of it. Like he said, the idea that you're coming for way more than the movies, and sometimes the movies are even secondary to your enjoyment of the experience. That's incredibly unique. Coming to us live now, you know her, you love her, the great Sandy, who runs our Mighty Mahoning merch and has taken the Mighty Mahoning merch to the next level, sharing some of her memories and love of the Mahoning Drive-In. Welcome, Sandy.
Hi, glad to be here.
You've been on the podcast with us several times now in various capacities. We did the origin story, as I call it for everybody, the getting to know you episode early on. And then we've had you on to talk about Invasion of the Body Snatchers and to talk about your career outside the Mahoning and specific events and book club and all that. So do you have any specific memories of the podcast or thoughts about the podcast? And beyond that, any Mahoning memories since you've been involved with the organization?
Well, to celebrate the podcast, I would say not only talking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I could do all day. I had really enjoyed that podcast because people come up to me, even now, and will share a story, a book, a movie that they really love. And they'll say, well, you know, I knew that you liked it because I heard your podcast, so I thought you would like this. And I always find that really sweet and kind. Even after we started the book club and we had, you know, even more talk about books, people still will see me be in line to buy French fries. And they'll be like, oh, hey, by the way, I just read this really great book. I've even borrowed books from people that they bring into me and say, I thought you might like to read this book. Amazing. So I think that just, the way the podcast touches people and they feel connected to us, I'm not just that person standing there selling them a t-shirt. They actually know who I am because we do these talks, and they feel connected to all of us, not just me. But in a certain way, I think that's what the podcast does, is it creates connections between people, and they see us as an extension of their family. I mean, I literally have several people who will bring their kids in, and they're like, she's my best friend. And that just, I try not to get overly emotional, but you guys know I'm sappy already. And that thrills me that, these kids feel like they can't wait to get there because they want to say hi, and they want to see what I have on the merch table, and they want to buy a trinket. They want to give me a hug. And, that was so hard during the pandemic because, we had our faces covered or we didn't touch. And I really love that we're back to that now, even though we're still being careful. I just love that I get to get hugs from people and give hugs to people. And I really think that the podcast, that's my favorite part of the podcast, is that it's connected all of us to each other in a way that we wouldn't have if it was just on site, because we're working when we're on. I'm busy stocking things, organizing things, bringing people out. So I don't get as much time as I would like with each person that, comes in and wants to tell me something. Sometimes I get more time than others, but I think that the podcast fills in those gaps so that they know why we all love the drive-in so much, that they see that love in the podcast in a different way.
Absolutely.
That's a weird thing too socially for me, is somebody will come up to me and make reference to something we talked about or I said on the podcast, and I forget. I don't know what I'm saying half the time anyway. And they'll come up and say something, and it'll take me a second because I'm trying to remember the conversation I had with that person about this thing. And then I'll realize, oh no, that's about this thing that we recorded and we put out into the world. And it's always amazing to me that people listen, because it's just in my mind, it's a bunch of friends talking about something we care about, and we do it, and then we put it out there, and it has a life. And one time on the lot, I'm walking past somebody's van. These two guys are in a van before the show starts, and I hear my voice coming out of the van, and it took me a second. I'm like, wait a minute, they're listening to the podcast while they wait for the movies to start. It is an interesting way to connect who we are as people, not just as employees and staff, more with people. It's been really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of the best decisions we've ever made. And I think, the blessing of the documentary and having our personalities shared, as well as the business model catching people's hearts, this in a lot of ways was an extension of that, to continue shining a light on the people that make the Mahoning magical, and to just have this one timestamp doesn't do it justice, especially as the business grows, the people that are here change. It's really nice to have a current living, breathing historical document that we can always go back to and relive memories. That's what I think I love most about it, is what this is going to be like in another 10 years when we can, go back and listen to the highlights that we had at the 24-hour-thon or whatever it is. It's just such a treat.
I really like that one.
Our most listened for a long time.
Until we had that spate of guests last year, that was our number one podcast, was where it was just about all of us at once talking, but never actually mentioning the titles of the films. We were really good about not giving that away. So we talked for like 3 hours about all the movies we watched, never actually said what the movies were. And strangely, very popular.
What a great time, to have those things living there that we can go revisit is fantastic.
And our parents had photos. Our parents kept photo album. I don't do that. Mine are all still living on my phone. But, they had photo albums that they would get out and they would look at old memories. And, this is something that's multidimensional. You can look at it sometimes, like when we record with the camera on, you can hear voices and listen to it. It's much better than just a picture. Although I have to say, my favorite thing about photos on, say, Facebook, for example, when they pop up with those memories of the day when you're scrolling.
Oh, yeah.
And the other day, it was like one of my very first merch tent. Remember the tent?
Oh, yeah.
One of the first tent photos. And I literally had a 10 by 10 tent. I don't even remember a 10 by 10. Like I've been bigger for so long. And it was like I had maybe 8 items on the table, like total. Like the you could see the screen of the square. And it was like, here were the things and the rest was empty. And I was looking at, gosh, how far we've come with what we offer and what we do. And I think that that's what's really nice about the podcast is that it kind of captures the way we felt in a moment and you can hear our voices with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, is there anything that you can speak on as far as your love of the Mahoning, whether it's as a fan or now being truly a essential part of the family?
I always talk about my very first trip and how we had chosen, I think it was Predator and Aliens. And when we pulled up, we didn't know where to park. There was hardly anyone on the lot. And we didn't know where to park because it wasn't like a line. And we're like, do you park over here? Do you park over here? And I remember getting out of the car and I saw the big like egg that was outside the stand. And there was like goo everywhere. And I just remember thinking like, this place is so different than anywhere. Like I felt immediately connected to the drive-in. And at that moment, I think it's when I felt like, I mean, that sounds so sappy, but I felt like this place could be my place. And I think that that's how a lot of our customers feel. And I think that that's why they love coming back too, because you immediately see people that love all the aspects of movies the way that you love it. Like I am a buyer, I'm a shopper. I love going places and buying souvenirs. And I think back to like, I do it for the library. I buy stuff for the writing studio. Like I realize I've been preparing my whole life for this job that I never really intended to ever have, but I thoroughly get a lot of joy out of doing it. But that first moment as a customer and coming in and feeling the love that emanated from the bay doors, I think that that's my favorite drive-in memory ever, because that's why we do what we do, because now I want to do that for someone else.
That's what it's all about, you know, passing that love on. And we say it all the time. It's an infectious environment, but the love that the staff brings to the place really does allow people to take it into their heart well beyond just a disposable experience that most cinematic experiences are. Well, we thank you so much, Sandy, for making the time for us. You're such a treat every single time that you're on. Beyond loved by this crew and beyond loved by our customer base. It's amazing. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Chili Dilly, the personality pickle. Packed in a jar for the freshest flavor. Served cold in a sack for you to savor. So dainty to eat, no muss, no fuss. An ideal snack for all of us. Crisp, tender, and tasty with a bit of spice. Buy one now. Taste how nice. Snack bar clerks will knock themselves silly, speeding your order for a real Chili Dilly.
I'm sure we have a bunch, so why don't we take it away with the next voice message?
All right. These are in no particular order. These are not in order of our preference toward the individual, nor the order in which they were received, because I honestly don't remember. Up next is Will McGuire.
This is Will McGuire from Forces of Geek. What does the Mahoning Drive-In cinema mean to me? Well, it is in a world of homogeneity. It is an island of the enthusiast. It's a place for people who love movies and want to see them in the best quality, in the best form, with other fans, with the best concessions, in the best place you can. And the Mahoning Drive-In is like a cathedral to movies. You know, special things happen in special places. And the Mahoning Drive-In is a special place.
Thank you, sir.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Will actually came out and covered our most recent John Woo screening.
Yes, he did a great intro for A Bullet in the Head.
Yes, and he reached out to me about a week later, and he's like, "You're never going to believe it. I'm interviewing John Woo." because he's got his new film coming out this year. And oh my goodness, such a great supporter. And again, I love that we are a collective of creatives as well. So far, both of these people bring something to what we do here and also chase their dreams with their own projects. And that's something that we've said over and over again on the podcast. It's the gift that keeps on giving, the fact that this is an inspirational story that feeds the fire for people, but it goes both ways, because seeing these people kind of take off over the last couple years, it's inspiring for us too. Like seeing John Demmer do sets at other conventions and popping up and getting work is such a thrill. Even our poster artists, to see them kind of grow along with us is such a treat. What else we got? Who we got next?
We have, now I don't have last names, and out of respect for everybody and for their anonymity, and perhaps they could be in the witness relocation program, we are not giving last names unless they say them in the recording, in which case they'll tell you their last name. We have Jessica commenting on our 100th episode.
Jessica Haddonfield here from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been going to Camp Blood since 2019. I plan my vacation to Pennsylvania during it. The Mahoning Drive-In Theater to me means my happy place. I've made so many wonderful friends, and I thank everyone for all the memories created with you. See you in 2024 for Camp Blood 10.
Wow, 10 years. That's another milestone we're up on. Jessica is a beautiful soul. She's an incredible supporter of the Mahoning. Like she said, Camp Blood is her jam. It's not Camp Blood unless she's there. Milwaukee, how about that? You guys want to speak on the fact that this theater regularly draws people beyond the East Coast?
It's insane, you know, especially when you remember what it started like. It was basically locals and this weird guy that drove 6.5 hours from New Hampshire. And I'm not the only one now. It's great. I see New Hampshire license plates there regularly now. People who come down several times a season, they're making the drive that I drove. People coming down from Vermont, from Wisconsin, friends flying out from California and New Orleans. It's what bigger compliment is it to a business that people are willing to put in that kind of time and expense to come out and spend a little time being entertained by what you do.
From Texas and the deep south and Canada, all over
and beyond. We had somebody from Palestine this year. Was that it?
There was someone from Ukraine.
Oh, Ukraine.
Yes.
Ukraine.
Yeah, we had somebody from the Ukraine this year.
That might have been more, and this is no disrespect to anybody's situation, that might have been more a fleeing situation than it was a coming to visit situation. That is a joke, but that is also very serious. I don't think that they were like, Ukraine's great, but I'm thinking Lee Heighton is where I want to be because they're showing Ernest Scared Stupid. I think it was more like this person, it was over here because of the situation there, but still somebody from the Ukraine knows about us, and that's amazing.
Exactly. Look where, and it was a young lady, but look where they brought her. That's the thing. Yes, it was a fleeing situation. They wanted to get her out of there, but look where they brought her for her first drive-in. Look where they brought her.
And hopefully we could provide that night a break, as John said, a break from reality, a break from her worries about that whole situation, is to step back in time to this weird place with these weird people and not have to think about that other stuff for a little while.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you, Jessica. And thank you really to all of the fans. The amount of work that we put into the prepping and the plannings and the hurdles and all that stuff. We say it almost every weekend. The fans bring the fandom, which makes our job so much easier. It heightens the atmosphere to a level that you really can't plan on. There's certain elements we always put in place, or certain elements that we like to put in place. But it's the fans that really bring that enthusiasm and love for what we do that creates this atmosphere well beyond a set or a poster or a t-shirt could ever do. Thank you guys so much. This is such a thrill. Oh my gosh, look who's here. Oh my goodness. Mama Beth is in the house. You know her, you love her, our concession manager, who I'm sure has so many endless memories, not just with the podcast, but with the Mahoning, as you guys know. Not only a leader on this ship now, but started as a mega fan and ultra supporter. How are you, Mama Beth?
I'm good. How are you?
So good. So glad that you could join us. Doing this 100th episode celebration, it's been a love fest. We listened to a bunch of messages from fans and friends and supporters, and also have had the crew popping in and talking about what the Mahoning means to them, their experiences on the podcast. And you've been on a bunch of times. So where do you lie as far as your love of the podcast or hate? I don't know which way it goes. Or thoughts on the podcast in general, and your love for the Mahoning.
I love the podcast. I think it gives a great insight to what we do and what other people do, supporting the drive-in culture altogether. If I had to pick a favorite one, I would definitely say it was when the Patreon members sent in their questions, because it really kind of put that into perspective, that people wanted to know what I did every day, my job, my struggles in the stand with trying to fit things in our storage or lack thereof storage at the Mahoning, as many people know. But I would definitely pick that as my favorite podcast.
And I have to say that your episode where you answer Patreon questions is still currently the third most listened to episode of all time, right behind Dave and Ginger Lynn. So, and I said every time that you are on the podcast, it gets a lot of listens. So I always half jokingly say, "Gotta get Beth on the podcast again and get those numbers up."
People love me, I'm telling you.
Yeah, way to go, Beth. Way to go.
Well, that concession stand, as everybody knows, is the heart and soul of the business, and it's the heart and soul of the operations. When you guys come in, everything happens there. So in a strange way, Mama Beth wears a ton of hats on any given day, being that she is centrally located, always knows what's going on. It's a beautiful thing. Now, as far as you coming into it, I don't want to go over everything with everybody, but what's your thoughts as far as the growth of the Mahoning since you've come on, and your experiences as part of the team?
It was funny because when I was thinking about a Mahoning memory, a lot of people always come in and they talk about the documentary, but I was one of the few that got to see at the drive-in. Al was actually there that night. We got to walk the red carpet and get our picture taken with the backdrop behind us. I actually have the photo if you ever wanted to post the photo. I think it's just amazing coming so far. Like literally when Jeff and I first started coming, there were maybe like 25 cars on the lot. And now we literally just had this past weekend where it was like 700 people on the lot. The growth of, let's say, my crew in general, I couldn't be more happy with how far that they've come. And when I watch how they interact with customers and handle any problems in the stand, it makes me so happy every day. And that's my job. My job is not just to cook, but to listen to the people who come through that have wanted to come to the Mahoning for years. And this was their first chance to come from Michigan or England or wherever they decided to come to be able to experience and see what we do every day and the shows that we put on and keep that preservation of film and the drive-in alive.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
And we're so blessed to have your personality along the line with all the other kids as well, and staff as well. We call them kids.
All of whom are either 21 or very close to it.
The younger staff, I guess I should start saying.
But compared to me especially, they're kids.
Yeah.
Beth is a kid compared to me.
But we talked about it earlier, how important it is to have somebody on those front lines to give folks that experience. Like, we know we do a knock-up job as far as the quality of our food, as far as our merchandising, things like that. But the people that are there representing it is so important. And the fact that people know your guys' names, personalities, missions, everything down the line. It goes so far, I think, with the community appeal of what we do when, again, the organizers and leaders of this place are shining stars. It's a very rare air that we breathe.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I think for the new customers coming in and talking to us and seeing what we do every day, and then literally 2 customers down as a regular that we know on a regular basis, that's always there with us and talking to us and them making that connection is so nice to see as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have any choice memories from this last season, this last year? As we kind of timestamp this, we're in our off season of our 2023 year going into the 2024 year. It was a ride, to say the least. I know it's a hard question.
Maybe the most recent with having Tim Capello there. Maybe because it's so recent in my mind. He was such a pleasure. He came on the lot. He introduced himself. Oh my gosh, he drove in his little white minivan. He brought his merch in garbage bags. He was so excited because we had everything set up and ready for him. He was just a pleasure. Signed all night long, did his 45-minute music set, entertained everybody all night long, and then we generally put on a party afterwards. So, we all had a really, really good time. One of my staff was turning 21, so we had to celebrate that. And we had to culminate the whole season just this past Sunday. So I would definitely say, since that is fresh in my mind, that's probably one of the biggest highlights of the year.
Yep, that's right there for me.
Yeah, that's great.
Not only the event, but the true camaraderie of that final night, us all being together, pulling together, and truly pulling off, quite literally the biggest event of the year for us. And it just went so well. We were all there for each other. We all had each other's backs. We had such a great time throughout the night, even though we did get a little bit of rain. It was just a perfect ending to a crazy year.
And praying I had enough food stock to sell a sold out crowd.
Yeah, Tim Capello was billed as the rock star, but Mama Beth was the rock star.
All those kids.
I couldn't believe it. We hugged and practically cried when you cleared out that that last freezer, and that was the plan. Was, man, can we push everything out so we don't have to do a big reorder and roll things over? It was perfectly planned this year and executed.
Yeah, I think it was great. I mean, Beth, you cut it down so close, it just worked out perfectly. You have everything in one freezer, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So, man, you can't get any better than that.
I think I ended with 1 bag of chicken nuggets and 5 bags of mott sticks. That was it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Man.
Way to go.
Well, thank you for everything that you do for us, Beth. I know the wave of the season drives us straight on through, but certainly here and every single weekend we try to let you know you're just knocking it out the park, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
No, well, thank you guys for having me.
Oh my goodness, you're a joy.
It tastes so good, it smells good, and what's gooder, it is so good. Popcorn, popcorn, everyone for popcorn.
Do it now. Pop out for a big box of fresh, delicious popcorn. It tastes good, and it's good for you.
Popcorn, popcorn, everyone for popcorn. Let's all pop out for popcorn.
We got more?
Do we ever? We have a lot of them. We have Patrick up next, asking that musical question.
Hello, my name is Patrick, and I'm a Mahoning-aholic. The Mahoning Drive-In has been a yearly destination for me since 2017. I had never been to a drive-in before, and as soon as I laid eyes on that giant screen, I was hooked. It's an escape from reality with a family-like atmosphere, and I am forever grateful that it exists. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Dorothy may say, there's no place like home. I say, there's no place like the Mahoning Drive-In.
That's very similar to something we've said for a while. There's no place like home.
Yeah.
Like the Mahone.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so true.
That's beautiful.
Patrick's an amazing guy. He has really seen the growth of us. He was there in some of those early years when we were just getting started with building up this fandom and finding our footing with what our business model is. And he has always just been a constant supporter. Whenever he comes, just like Johnny Demmer, he's always in costume and a true friend as well. That's worth mentioning that, the gift of the Mahoning goes well beyond the business angle. I think the bigger reward for all of us, and the long lasting reward for all of us, are the friendships and the people that we now have in our lives. Many of us, have different situations when it comes to our family lives or the people that we still have with us. But to have such a strong familial unit of like-minded people going after the same goal, it's a constant inspiration and constantly fills the heart and reassures that we're doing something really, really special here. Well, look who just dropped in. You know him, you love him, the great Dave Wirt. What is happening, my friend?
Not much. How's everyone on the call here this evening?
Feeling good?
Not bad.
Celebrating 100 episodes. Gosh, how did that happen?
Wow, that's impressive. A centennial.
Yeah. 2, 3. Yeah.
We just kept talking.
Right. We
Yeah.
just kept going. Yeah.
And I guess it's fitting to be jumping into a big celebration as we work our way through the off season here and prepare to celebrate for a couple big anniversaries next year. Not only the diamond anniversary for the Mahoning Drive-In, celebrating 75 years, but also 10 years of our retro run and our partnership, Jeff.
Right. Exactly.
Very cool.
10 years. I've been going there for 10 years.
Isn't that insane?
Next year. Yeah. Next 2024, 2014. Yeah.
I mean, the passage of time feels like no time and forever. So it feels like I've been going there forever. And it also feels like 10 years is kind of a big number. But I mean, I've been going since the last night of the final non-retro season. So I've been going as long as the place has been retro. And 10 years, golly gosh.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah.
Zoe's fully grown. She's 18. What the heck?
I know.
I've seen the documentary, and in my mind, I picture like young, fresh-faced Mark in that documentary, and then I see him now, and it looks like those photographs they show you of like the presidents when they go into office, and then they put them out of.
I thought you were going to say
hell.
It looks like those holographic photos that look like old-timey photos of somebody, and then as you move past them, they turn into a cadaver.
Yep.
Or those weird aged photos where they project what would Jim Morrison look like if he were alive today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put a lot of miles on my car and a lot of miles on my face.
We measure
These
our
things
run in
happen.
cheeseburgers.
Yep. If you ever saw a photo of me when I first started there in 2001 and what I look like now, time has gone by. Yep.
Well, we're having a great time chatting with friends of the family. We're listening to recordings from fans and supporters of the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. Our hearts are so full, but we're trying to keep it focused a bit on the podcast. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with the podcast, whether on it or as a listener, and what it means to you?
And I will cut in here and I will point out that Dave is the number 2 most listened to podcast of all time.
Wow.
Right behind Ginger Lynn in our stats.
That's a hard bar.
Yeah, congratulations.
So I did hear your comment, Mark, about the number 2 position next to Ginger Lynn, which is a great position to be in.
Set that up on a tee for you.
On the rankings, you are under Ginger Lynn. You are just under Ginger Lynn.
That's where you want to be. Right there.
There were many a times in my youth that I always wanted to be under Ginger Lynn, and I believe that
you've made it.
It's a treasure. It really is. No, I love doing the podcast with you guys. It's great. I loved just sharing memories with you guys. It was a treat when we had the other 2 guys from the Lot Crew, Will and John, on as well. My God, those guys told stories that probably I didn't want them to tell. So it's always a great opportunity to just shoot the breeze.
That was I had laughed so hard while I was listening to you guys tell stories. I was muted for most of that podcast recording. And that was the first episode, maybe the only one that went so long I had to cut it into 2 shows. I think we recorded for like 3 hours and I didn't want it to stop. So yeah, that's, if anybody who's listening has not listened to the Lot Crew podcast, there's a part 1 and a part 2. You really should go back and do that because the stories they tell.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we get interesting ones.
It's a great reflection of you guys. It really is like what it is like hanging out with you guys on the lot. Just the Rift City, you guys can go for days, for hours on end and just like roll off of one another. It's quite a dynamic.
I had such a good time this year because I did for Schlockerama, I did a radio show. I did the DJ set, but I had John sit in with me, and I mean the two of us just sat there and had so much fun together doing that radio set. It was a blast, and I get him laughing and he just gets me laughing, and it's a great relationship, and not just with him but the other guys in the Lot Crew. I mean, it really is. I mean, we stand out there in the rain, the sun, and we build that kind of camaraderie.
Yeah, there's no doubt you guys take the brunt of the weather. That's for sure. Yeah.
And the later it gets, the more delusional you get, the crazier the conversations get, the louder the laughs get.
Yeah.
Dude, listen, watching Butterfly at 3:00 in the morning during Waters weekend, surreal, I think, is the way of describing that one. We were like talking about the next day, like, do we understand that the way that we thought we understood that last night? And was there like a water? Yeah, so it definitely was a seasonal highlight.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, I love that these podcasts are timestamps. You can really use them as such and go back and relive these moments in time and moments of the Mahoning history. And I think the longer that we do this, the more kind of important that will be.
Yeah, I mean, just capturing kind of the verbal history of the place, the stories that years from now will we remember if we don't kind of casually, record these stories. Ridiculousness like watching Stacy Keach and Pia Zadora in the wee hours of the morning. It's great that these exist, and it's great that you guys are capturing them. So thank you for that.
That's the thing, is that so much happens every weekend, and we all have. Every person on the crew itself has so many stories from just about every show that you do forget them over time. When we look back at the entire season, which we'll do in an upcoming show, you almost have to go look back at a list of every show to try to remember what went on, because it was just so much. And the most recent stuff tends to outshine the earlier stuff. But boy, oh boy, it's never boring.
Oh no, it's not.
Right.
And as we dig deeper into everything that we do, whether it's the programming or what we offer, I've become so obsessed with the history of this culture and how it's grown and been able to pivot over time, and the challenges that arose from cable television to indoor movie houses to Netflix now. And it's amazing to think that the Mahoning is the future of the drive-in culture and is really setting an example for what you can do in the digital age while also anchoring it in the past, which has always been our mission and motto, kind of that old school and new school mashup. And the podcast is a great example. We are a drive-in, maybe the most classic retro type of business you can have in America. And we are doing a very progressive thing with this podcasting and finding ways to get the word out beyond your local draw, because for us, it's much bigger than that local draw. And I think the podcast has done wonders for that, in just being able to reach as many people as possible. Social media is one thing, but these podcasts are being discovered every single day.
Yes, and then not just in this country too, but internationally.
Yeah, the Love of the Drive-In is not a strictly American push. And I think certainly the story of the Mahoning is not even a cinematic or movie push for people. It's an inspirational cornerstone for them where they can watch the documentary or touch in and see what we're doing, and it fuels their fire. So, you know, we've said it so many times, whether on the lot or here, but that's maybe the biggest gift that the Mahoning's success has given us. The fact that not only does it inspire us every single day and give us our happy place, but it inspires others, which, man, you can't wish for anything better than that.
Right.
Well, Dave, why don't you tell us a bit about beyond the podcast, kind of your love of the Mahoning, what the Mahoning means to you, maybe any choice memories that might pop out?
Sure. I mean, my heart really does reside there. I mean, I just going there every week, and I think for me, you know, it's the community of it. I think what I love is obviously it's a blast watching the movies there. That's been such a treat, and I've seen so many interesting films there. But you know, the community is what means so much to me, or has grown to mean so much to me. You know, the staff is like a second family to me at this point. And this season, I feel like I've been able to kind of, you know, let a little bit more, you know, I've gotten to know a lot more of the regulars and have become, I think, closer friends with them, you know, recognizing them. It's so nice to see those familiar faces when they pull up to the gate and, you know, be able to welcome them to kind of our house, you know, and come on in and have a great time. It's like hosting a party every week. So that's a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy that. And I think this season, I one of the things, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity, is I got to flex a little bit of my personality, I guess, and do the pre-show slides this season. And once again, thanks guys for giving me, you know, the faith in me and letting me do that. And you guys pretty much gave me carte blanche and said, have fun. I really appreciated that. And it's neat. It was such a thrill to see something I did up on the screen, and that was a treat. You know, one of the highlights of this season for me is just seeing, you know, this ridiculous artwork and my silly jokes up on the big screen.
That was such a bar raise for us, you know. Such a great job with that. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, from my perspective, I mean, those slides are terrific. I think they're great.
Yeah, I think back to when it wasn't a part of what we did. You know, a real eye-opener this year was we didn't do calendars until like 2 years ago, you know, and now we can't imagine, like, how did we promote shows without giving out calendars, you know? And the slideshow has certainly become that big of a part of the business. You know, it serves a purpose every single night, just like this podcast and just like the pre-show radio show. It shows our personalities, and it's a connection with the experience that people have. So when they see a quirky little joke on your keep the headlights off the screen ad or whatever it is, they get a chuckle and they say, God, this place is great.
Yeah.
I always tried to like center them, you know, around the movie. And I always try to include maybe like an inside joke so that if you know the movie, you go, oh my gosh, okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. And just kind of have a laugh. And I think doing that is my way of saying, hey, listen, guys, we love these movies too. You know, you're here because you love these movies. We love these movies. We're not just showing these because we think it's good business. We're showing these because we legitimately love these movies.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the customers respond to that. And I've heard that so many places will show old movies but not really know about them or care about them. They're just running a product to get you to show up. But we're all in this because we love it. And there's nothing better than seeing whether it's one of your slides or one of Beth's food specials or something, where it's clear that the people who run this place know what these things are and like them. And we're speaking like that secret handshake with these film references and things like this. And the slides, you'll send those to us, or all through the season, certain ones, selections to us, to sort of just say, hey, this is what I'm working on, and they're just great. And I often miss them because I'm usually inside the snack bar when they're running, but it's a wonderful addition to what we do, and they're so smart and they're so funny, and the graphic manipulations that you do, like you did one for Exorcist, and it was like one of those Captain Howdy faces reflecting in the glass of the popcorn machine next to Beth, and it was just, they're greatly appreciated.
Yeah, you have a flair for taking the part of the movie and transferring it into those slides. It's just fantastic.
It's all done out of love, and it's all done because it's my commitment to this theater and helping it grow and do anything I can to better our overall experience for the customers. And what inspires me to do that is Beth and Sandy, who do the same thing in all their own areas. Beth is constantly coming up with clever food specials, and Sandy's commitment to the merch and the merch specials, and interesting ideas there. It's gratifying to me that I'm able to provide some degree of creativity to help add to the whole overall mixture.
Yeah, and it also shines a light on them too, which I'm sure they all really appreciate. It's always hard, and we do our best to, now that we've all become personalities here, to shine a light on everybody. But to have that ad up on the screen, Mama Beth there with her popcorn, and Vincent Price there next to her with his popcorn, it's a master stroke, and really keeps everybody's interest in mind, which is very telling of you and your personality.
Well, I thought it was cool this year that Sandy did that book club. I mean, I thought that was such a neat extra little thing that she did, that I was like super stoked to be able to promote that for her and get her up on the screen and give her, screen time. Because you're right, everybody here at the Mahoning is a personality, and it's great to be able to, when people hear about, Sandy, to be able to kind of see her up there on the screen smiling, promoting the book club. Or, Beth with the popcorn bucket. I really wanted to make sure that I did give that kind of promotion and FaceTime to the staff. It's important. I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you certainly did. You certainly did.
Yeah.
How many, by the way, because I know you're keeping track, how many slides did you create for this season?
I think the final total was 1,182.
Oh,
wow!
And if you've never been and you've never seen these slides, if the Patreon members, the Simplex Patreon members, we do this virtual show once a month, and Dave will give us the most recent version of that slideshow to play under the DJ set, so it's like you're at the theater. But if you've never seen them, they're almost always themed to the movie that night. Some of them are standards, but a lot of them are themed to that movie. So each week he's cranking out, you'll have to tell me the number average for the film that are themed with graphics to the film and references to the film, and it's a lot.
Well, it depends on the show, and it depends on if it's like a themed weekend. So I can cheat a little bit for something like if it's Camp Blood, that allows me to focus on one kind of theme for, a whole set of slides, which is a little bit less mind-boggling. You guys kick me, a little bit when you do like a weekend where we have 3 different films going. And it's like, I got to run from James Bond to Canon Films to the Garbage Pail. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, dude, this is, there needs to be seatbelts on this ride. Because
Yeah, I can imagine it gets a little hairy sometimes.
Yeah, my search history has to be the most unique in the world. I mean, it's probably like, I don't know what, I can't imagine it would red flag for anybody apart from like a team of psychologists who want to study it. But
well, thank you, Dave. You're such a inspiration. Your dedication to this place, your willingness to go along with us as we try new things out. It's incredible. So thank you so much for all that you do for the Mahoning family.
It's my pleasure. I love you guys. I sincerely do. And I am beyond excited for the 75th and, everything that we've got planned and everything that I can contribute to that. So looking forward to it.
You're the best. We love you too, buddy.
Hey, everybody. This is Zach Allegan from Gremlins and Waxwork and all sorts of other movies you probably saw at the drive-in. You're listening to Mahoning Drive-In Radio.
Up next, we have a little sunshine from our friend Sarah.
My name is Sarah. I'm from Palmerton, PA. I've been going to Mahoning since the beginning, and now I found myself having a new family out of it. The only way to describe Mahoning Drive-In is that it feels like home.
Oh my gosh.
These are, so beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah. And Sarah, you put it perfectly. She is a ray of sunshine. I say the sisters because they do come together, both Jessica and Sarah. They're locals. They grew up with the Mahoning, going to the Mahoning Indoor Cinema, and just like Patrick had been coming pretty much since the beginning. They become a staple of the Mahoning just as much as Mark and I and Jeff, breathing the life once again into the atmosphere here. The thing I love about Sarah is she owns her love of horror movies, which we see a lot here at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. Having it just consume you, that is the ultimate kind of staple Mahoning fan, the person that is going to just be fully obsessed with a fandom or a genre or whatever it is. You're right at home here.
And extra points for being a big Vincent Price fan and having a Vincent Price tattoo.
Heck yeah, a killer Vincent Price tattoo. Next up,
we have Mr. Ernie Rockelman.
I discovered the Mahoning about 6 years ago, and my first screening was a trilogy of vampire movies. It was Lost Boys and Fright Night and Vampire's Kiss. And I remember early during the first reel of The Lost Boys, one of the projectors went down, and the DJ came over the radio and asked the crowd if they wanted to continue with the 35mm projections, which would mean a delay at every turnover, or switch to digital projections. And the crowd overwhelmingly voted to stick with the 35, and I immediately fell in love with the place. And I've been visiting ever since. I've probably seen close to 200 movies on the giant Mahoning screen. And it's just a place where, you're able to be yourself and chat about movies with like-minded film geeks. And it's more than that, though. It's more than just a visit to the movies. It's an experience, looking down the rows and seeing people not in their cars, but in folding chairs with blankets and the elaborate setups. And it's the shared anticipation of the crowd, and it's the tie-in food items and costumes and all of those things. I've made lasting relationships at the Mahoning. I get out as many times as I can. It's a 3-hour hike for me, but I'm still there quite often during season, and every weekend that I'm unable to attend, I look at the pictures of friends, and I'm saddened that I'm not there sharing in the excitement with them. And it's just a great, great place, and one of my favorite places on the planet. And I'm so happy to be doing this, contributing to this podcast, and so happy to be part of the Mahoning family. Thanks.
We love you, Ernie. Gosh. It's worth mentioning, another huge extension of the family is these super fans' children. Ernie comes with his kids, and they have become such a part of the experience and atmosphere for us as well. So much so that some of them have become uber super fans, kids that you wouldn't expect. That, again, is such a gift to have this become a part of families' traditions together, that not only is it special to mom and dad, but it's become special to their kids as well, which we know that's our future right there. Those are the people who are going to be supporting us for the next 75 years. And to have such a strong, loving base of people, it's incredible.
You want to talk about the next generation and appealing to kids?
Yeah, sure.
Listen to the next one.
Hello, I am Clark Poole, and my favorite thing about Mahoning are the people that work there. They feel like family to me. And I also like the movies.
Clark is the young master.
Yeah, that's Clark. Yep.
He is the young master, man. Oh, we talked about it on the podcast, I'm sure, at some point, but this kid wandered in this year, very inquisitive about not only the equipment and what we do, but how the bookings and we choose movies and how things go on that front. And he started dropping knowledge on us, like knowledge that no 11-year-old at that time really should know, like, you know, recommending us titles for the John Waters Filthy Film Festival type of level. And it warmed our hearts to no end. I have a great picture of Clark sitting with Mark and I think Dave Wright, just sitting there like one of the guys, you know, legs crossed in the old theater chair at Jeff's desk and just chatting it up, you know, like that goes beyond, you know, and the fact that Clark's mother allows him to truly be himself on the lot and brings him to really everything. That is something that I so appreciate, because my mother was the same way. You know, it was like we've talked about here again, that launching point to discuss something. Movies were the starting point to get to something else. So to see that on the lot with such a young, impressionable munchkin, it's really cool, you know? It's not hard to fall in love with Clark.
He'll recommend movies he's never seen, but he knows what they are, and he'll go to IMDb because he's a modern youth, and he'll look up an artist or, you know, a director or an actor, and he'll be like, this movie and this movie and this movie would go great together. And I'm like, you're right. Have you seen those? No, I've only barely heard of them, but I think they would go good together. And he and I will talk about boutique Blu-ray companies. You've got that Arrow release? No, I've got the Blue Underground release. It's a lot of fun.
That's how you can tell he's really into it, because of his knowledge. Like Virgil said, for such a young age, the fact that he knows all this or senses what would work well together is fantastic at 11 years old.
Yeah, we have a really tight youngster crew. We call them the mini Mahoning crew, of kids that are just like waiting for the day that they can get behind the line and help Mama Beth, or, you know, help out in some sort of way. They're just so dedicated to it already. And Clark's mom, Dawn, just like Ernie, such a gift that you share the experience with your kids. You know, when we got into this, that's really what we were trying to preserve, was that thing that was special for all of us when we were kids. That mentality of being able to go to the theater with several generations down the line and enjoy it. And we see that on a nightly basis here.
Right. And here we have the chance to pass something on to a future generation, because you guys, you know, most of the places we went to as kids, drive-in theaters, are long gone. Whereas now we have something that we can pass on to others, which is great.
Absolutely. Yep. Mine's a Target.
Mine's a Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, mine is an empty field. Virgil saw it.
What a treat with everybody stopping by for our 100th episode celebration. And it wouldn't be complete if we weren't visited by the longest running Mahoning staff member, Jess. Welcome, Jess.
Woo woo!
Woo 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 woo! Yes.
There
so excited to have you. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good.
I think you speak for all of us when you say we're tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming out of the wave of the season, it always is just like a decompression time where it's like, okay, let's just breathe for a second. But we've been reminiscing about the year. We've been reminiscing about our 10-year journey together, the 75th anniversary we're coming up on for next season, but really trying to focus in on the podcast. So do you have any memories with the podcast? You listen to the podcast?
I honestly do not get to listen to the podcast as much as I would like to, because I feel like all I do is work. And then when I come home, I shower and go to bed.
Yeah.
And do it all over again.
Right. But you were around quite a bit in years past. It's only recently that your regular job is kind of taken over. And we all understand that. So no problem there. Well, like Virgil said, you're the longest employee that I've ever had. I mean, you've, how many years is it now? What year is this for you?
This would have been my 14th season.
Oh my gosh. So next year's anniversary year for you too. 15.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's amazing. Yep. It's amazing.
I feel old.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about your journey. I mean, we've done the long kind of get to know Jess podcast at the beginning, but being in the position that you're in to see the growth of this place, any words on that?
Oh my goodness. Well, to start my sophomore year of high school, to see what it has become now is just like insane and crazy. And it's really awesome to see, because obviously it's a really cool drive-in. You always want to drive in to do well, but being a part of this with like so many guests and retro shows, it's just a lot of fun and it's incredible. And I love to be a part of it still. And I'm thankful that I get to be a part of it still, because I never imagined it would, like, the Mahoning would turn into this and what we do now. So, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a mind bender. My big line this year was, I remember looking out that bay door and wondering, are we going to get a car tonight? You know, is this going to work at all? And to really feel kind of safe with the support that we have from people, so much so that we were able to take some serious swings this year and make things work that really on paper should have never worked, you know? And it seems like the deeper we dig with these genre nights, or these hyper-focused era nights, or these fan-driven nights, like, people find us and they appreciate it. And that love just keeps us going in a big way.
For sure. I know after John Waters' weekend, I did a post and I said, if you would have asked my 16-year-old self working my very first job if this would ever happen, it would have been no. It's amazing to see how far the drive-in has come. I am lucky to be a small part of it. And that is true, because never in my wildest dreams did I expect John Waters to be on the Mahoning lot in Lehighton, PA. And there he was.
Yeah. And knew about us and had nothing but amazing things to say about our mission and what we're trying to do. It's just the constant inspiration across the board is nuts. And so much so that he's like, this is my new home. You guys can see me back here every single year as long as you'll have me. And
which is incredible.
Yeah.
He already has it. He already has the same weekend penciled in on his personal calendar, I was told. So that's great.
Yep. So that's we're working that magic, and it's just crazy to think it all felt like baby steps. You know, like nothing felt like, oh my gosh, we blew up overnight. We were able to implement little aspects over the last 10 years that have been able to add up to just these monstrous events. We just had the big finale night with Tim Capello blowing the sax after the Lost Boys. And it was like an all-out dance party, like people dancing in the rain and got the bonfire. It's times like that where it's so clear the community is so strong, you know, and the support that we have is so strong that, you know, nobody can really doubt the power of the drive-in and the love still for that type of experience.
Right. And the word just keeps on spreading further and further.
Yeah. New people every night.
Yep.
It's an honor. It really is to be able to be in this position. Anything else? I know we did our podcast. God, it feels like ages ago.
It really does.
Yeah. We're going to have you back on the podcast to do some fun stuff. We're going to be doing a big recap, and we want to do some commentaries again where we let crew pick a movie and we can watch and discuss it together. So, I don't know, to let you pick a movie.
Yeah.
That would be a fun one.
if it was a scary movie, you'd probably just hear me heavy breathing and gasping for air and then getting angry, like, why are you going that way? You know you're gonna get killed or something. So, because that's what I do. Sometimes I annoy people, and then other times they find it funny because then I'm like terrified, but I'm also sucked into it. So
one of the most entertaining nights I can remember was you were sitting outside the snack bar in a folding chair watching Carrie, and you were all in on that movie. And I just stood behind you and watched you react to it. And I knew what was coming at the end of the movie, too. I'll tell you, I was not laughing at you. I was just thoroughly enjoying watching you experience that movie for the first time because it was 100% working on you. And
yes.
so, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue. Any kind of choice memories you want to share? It's been a nutty ride for you. 15 freaking years.
Oh my gosh, I know. Sometimes I just feel like all the years blur together. It makes me sad. Because it just seems like it's going so fast, you know? And
yeah, but you're still young. You've got plenty of years to go yet. You know?
I know. I know. It's just sometimes I get sentimental and emotional.
Well, like every year for me seems to go faster than the one before it. And this season especially. It seems like we haven't been doing it that long and it's over.
It went fast, yeah.
Seeing the kids grow up too is really nuts.
Oh yeah.
Seeing the kids grow up, now they're like 21. What is that?
21-year-olds, you know.
And every time I see little Virgie, I'm just like, oh, I'm getting older and older because we share the same birthday. So every year he gets older, I'm getting older.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, any kind of choice memories, whether it's before the retro outfit or recently or whatever.
Everything was like, we were busy, but like it's so different now. Like we're busier in a different way. And I don't know, I remember I would sometimes be like working and my friends would come and visit me, or my parents, like me and my parents, my family went there growing up. So I mean, we kind of visited all the drive-ins, but we would go to the Mahoning, Shankweiler's, Becky's, like we hit them all to make sure we were supporting them. I remember going there and like bawling my eyes out to watch Toy Story.
Yes.
Which one was it? It was one of the Toy Stories, and like, you know, it's a nice dramatic scene where they're like in this incinerator thing almost about to burn. Or
oh yeah, Toy Story 3.
That was 3,
yes.
Yeah.
And here I am like bawling my eyes out in my friend's car watching this movie. And then I was just like, oh my gosh, the movie was so good. But as we're like crying into our popcorn, you know, that was a good time.
Yeah, that one really heavy.
I also remember, I think it was for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I remember I told them I couldn't work because I was secretly going to a different movie theater. So like the day before, I'm like helping prep and clean everything. I'm like, all right, what else can I do for you guys? I was like, I'm so sorry I can't be here tomorrow, because we were actually doing it the night it came out. But I was like, oh, me and my sister had this plan to go to the movie theater. Like we bought our tickets how long ago? We were so excited. And then, so I remember I told them I couldn't work just so I could go to another movie theater to watch it.
Great.
You little stinker.
I know, but I had to do it. I was like, it's Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And Jess, you've been with me long enough that you remember, even though the end of the first run era, you know, we were limping along, but I'm sure you remember the good days, like when we had Pirates of the Caribbean first run and the place was packed.
Yeah.
That was one of the best movies we had when we were first run. And probably one of the last really good ones.
Yeah. And then it was sad. It was like sad to see only like 3 cars show up. And
oh my gosh, yeah. Who wasn't? Yeah.
It was like, are we going to make it? And then now we're doing retro and it's working for us. And look at how much we've grown within these past several years. Like, I don't know. It's crazy because there I was like 15 or 16 years old starting my very first job. And then like now I'm almost 30 and like I grew up along with the drive-in and like with all the changes. And I don't know, not many people can say that. So like,
amen.
It's always
it's
always a
no,
home.
You're right.
Like that's why
it's always a home for you, and you're right. Definitely not everybody can say that.
Yeah. So like sometimes it's like I can't ever imagine not being a part of it because I've been a part of it for so long.
Yeah.
And I'm just still blessed to be able to be a part of it and say that I am still part of it.
Yeah.
You are, and as long as you can put in a couple hours now and then, you always will be.
Yeah, definitely adulting and having a full-time job is exhausting. So sometimes it's nice to go to the Mahoning, and even though, sometimes it's really busy and it's hard work, it's fun hard work, if that makes sense. It's not as mentally or physically exhausting as my other jobs. So
right, it's more relaxing. Even though there's a lot of work, it is more relaxing. Yeah.
Yes.
And your parents say the same thing. They both bust their butts throughout the whole entire week, and they come and help us out on the weekends. And they are both of them, so pure at heart with their love of the place and just wanting to support it and be a part of it. And just like you, has the same attitude of being so grateful for the opportunities to do what we do. And it's so nice to see the family unit, quite literally in this case, sharing the love of what this place is and has become.
Oh yeah. No, my parents really do love it. And they don't do it like obviously for the money or anything like that. They do it because it's fun. They enjoy coming and working with the kids. They feel like they're family, and I love that for them. I love that the kids love my parents so much. That really makes me happy too. And it's nice to see, because like when I was younger, my parents didn't work there. Obviously, they would just come and visit, and support me in that way. But now like they're actually there working, still supporting me, but like getting to be a part of the magic. And I know that they're really appreciative of it and love to be a part of it.
And I loved seeing them come out on our last night and boogie down to the sultry sounds of Tim Capello. It was.
Oh my gosh, my
you all
mom
were having a
was
blast.
having a grand old time.
Just dancing in the snack bar.
And then of course she's like trying to record on her phone, and she was like, Jess, am I recording? Did I hit the right button? And I'm like, yeah, you did. It's going.
That's
so
great.
Yeah. She got some video. It was so much fun. I knew it was going to be a good time, but I wasn't expecting all of that. And like how into it he was. Oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah. Perfect way to end the season. Like,
oh my gosh.
People kept saying, oh, you guys should sew something on Halloween. I'm like, how do you top that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think we could top that. I feel like we could not have asked for a better way to end the season, because it was so much fun. He was so kind and just like genuine. He took his time with people, which I always appreciate when, people are able to do that with everyone who's coming and supporting him. So it was great.
He got there at 2 p.m. and left at 3 a.m. What a dedication.
Yeah.
And literally hit the road to go to the next gig. I'm just like, what a monster.
Yeah, he's a trooper. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jess, for all that you do for us, all that you have been through with this place, all that you have done for this place. It is such a treat. Having you as a friend is maybe the biggest treat for me personally. The fact that you are Aunt Jess to my kids is amazing. So I really look forward to the future adventures that we get to all have together, whether on the podcast or on the lot.
Yes, me too. Absolutely.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're happy to announce that we've installed Burns-O-Matic in-car heaters for your comfort and pleasure. With these modern, safe, efficient in-car heaters, this drive-in theater will now remain open all year round. If you have any further questions about your Burns-O-Matic in-car heater, please contact one of our theater attendants. And remember, this drive-in theater will now remain open all year round, regardless of the weather.
Oh, this is amazing. Do we have anything else from our patrons?
Oh boy, do we ever. We do. We have several more. Here is one from our good friend James. You may have seen him taking photos on the lot. This man is a master photographer on 35 millimeter film, and he took a ton of photos over the last couple of seasons for an upcoming project. But here's his verbal thoughts presently.
First started coming to the drive-in like 2018, 2019, something like that. A couple of buddies of mine and I got into the habit of going to the Alamo Draft House in Yonkers because my buddy lived in the Hudson River Valley and we live in Jersey, and so it was a good medium point for us to meet. So we would go and see movies there as an excuse to see each other. We did that for a while, and then we got on to, I think it was Splatterfest at the Colonial, and we wanted to compliment and flesh out the weekend, and it was real weird, I think. It was 2018, it may have been 2019. And we did that double. And I think we also probably found out about it, or I had been aware of at the drive-in documentary. So that played into it, I'm sure. But once I was there, and I experienced it, and, I'm sure it's a similar experience to just about everybody who came there. Just how open it was and welcoming it was, and being able to get into the lamp house and see Jeff change reels and rewind, such like that. It just felt like home instantly, you know what I mean? And just seeing all that beautiful, beautiful 35 millimeter, just reel after reel of it is just a beautiful sight. And if you're into film, if you're into cinema, if you're into that thing, I remember them referring to it sort of as like a living, working museum, and it absolutely is, but like it's more than that, because we were watching John Waters in his filthy weekend, his filthy, filthy weekend. God love his filthy soul. But I was like trying to think of what it reminded me of. It just felt like Mortville always reminded me of something that I could never quite put my finger on, and the Mahoning was a little bit of Mortville. Yeah, and it wasn't so obvious that I would even think to ask the question, like, what does Mortville remind me of? But there was something just like nagging in the back of my head. And I think I finally figured it out. The Island of Misfit Toys in Rudolph. Do you know what I mean? Where they're getting chased by the Yeti, and they have to break off on the little homemade iceberg with Cornelius, with his silver 6-gun, stag handle 6-gun. And they finally make it to the Island of Misfit Toys. And it just felt like that's what we are. Do you know what I mean? Like, we all come to this improbable place. When I first started coming, I came 2 hours. I was like, oh, that should give me some kind of cred. But just like seeing like how far like Daryl and Tom, like it's just people come from like states and states away. You know what I mean? Like Texas, Midwest, and it's just amazing. And everybody comes to this place because it's a mecca, and I know that word gets thrown around, but it just feels like these movies are just their faith. You know what I mean? And people come together. We are this island of misfit toys that have just like found our home. And especially like when I was coming around like 2020 and COVID hit, it definitely felt like an island. You know what I mean? And it just bloomed. I just watched it blossom, and the festival vibe felt stronger, and the enthusiasm was just pumping. And just thinking about like people that I've seen over the years, Bruce Campbell, like Joe Bob Briggs and John Waters, and it's just, we were in his little filthy island of misfit toys. And every time I come there, and I don't want it to sound trite, but like it's church, for the film faithful, it's a cathedral. That screen is, I know, but like watching in the sunset, sort of like the sun go down, the light go down behind the screen as you watch it, and the sound of like cows, and like sometimes if it's rained, frogs, and like a Cessna landing. There's no place like it, and that is for damn sure. It's just unique unto itself, and so I don't know, like what the drive-in means to me. It's just something I need my regular faithful fix of, you know what I mean? And I am unwilling to not have it. So keep doing that, and we will keep coming. You built it, we came. I love it, and I love you guys.
We love you. What an honor. Wow. Hearing people talk about what this place means to them is so mind-blowing. I think back to those days when we were waiting for a car or two to show up, see if we'd be able to stay open. And this army of supportive people have grown and gathered around us and lifted us up in such a way that it's almost indescribable what feeling it gives.
It is. You can't put it in words sometimes. Every single one we've listened to tonight has just been beautiful. Those were great words from that guy. I really don't know what to say. It's beautiful.
And, it's a good place to say that the acceptingness on the lot, we go above and beyond, like we said, to make sure that everybody feels welcome. But sometimes that crosses over.
Right.
And that's the perfect example with him. Is he started coming with a camera around his neck, and some events really lent itself to being documented, like the Joe Bob Briggs or the Bruce Campbell. And he was always there, willing to help us out, and became kind of our go-to for that muscle, very much like Carl or Daryl or some of these other guys. And, again, that's such a gift to this outfit, the fact that we have people so willing to give their talents over to us. And worth mentioning, maybe the best hair on the lot, too. Cheers.
Luxurious, lustrous, body, and bounce.
Everybody wants it.
Oh, we're all jealous of that hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was great when he came up for his photo op with John Waters. It was, if anybody wasn't there, hadn't seen the pictures, it was John Demmer created this replica of flat, but looked 3D replica of the trailer or mobile home or whatever from Pink Flamingos, and Waters stood on the left side of the frame, and then there was like one of those lawn ornaments with a silver sphere phantasm like in the middle, and then the guest, the customer, would stand on the other side. So it was a distanced photo op. And when James came through, he had his camera around his neck, and I thought he was striking a pose like he was taking a picture of Waters for the photo, but I also kind of knew he was literally taking photos. And he later did post a picture of the photo he took, and it's this great photo of John Waters like looking at him and laughing. And mad photography skills, as the youth of some decade would say.
Memories to last a lifetime. And again, just like this podcast, it's something that will preserve that forever for us, to go back and look at some of the memories and the history of what we've been through. It's mind-bending.
I have a video that we'll put on Patreon at some point of it's the video I shot on my phone of flipping through it was like a stack of prints, like for a test prints or something he did from Joe Bob and other times around the drive, and these really cool gritty black and white photos he took. So at some point, anybody who's on Patreon can go over there at some point this off season, and I'll put that video up so you can see some of his work before we officially release it, however we're going to release it.
Who else do we got on this love train? This is the best episode yet.
We have
one of them.
Somebody who's contributed a lot to merch this season and to some snack bar decor. We have Ms. Victoria Lee.
Hey everyone, it's Victoria Lee. For the past couple seasons, I've been fortunate enough to contribute to the mighty Mahoning merch table. Maybe you've seen me around. Anyway, Virgil asked me to verbalize what Mahoning means to me. I've been thinking hard on it the past few days. I'm not very good at expressing my emotions, but here goes. Finally, Mahoning is my finally moment in life. Finally a place where I fit, a place that is a little off, absurd, abnormal, scary, weird, and everything that I like. Everyone around you is passionate about something, creating scene sets. I mean, did you see the John Waters trailer? The Godzilla by the screen, the food specials from the kitchen, the meticulously chosen merch for every single event. Just looking around at the goers, you see it too. Someone who spent a load of time on their makeup, which I never could, hair, which I never will, clothing, which I've never been really into, and even just a t-shirt selection. Everyone cares about something at the drive-in. I found my role as a daughter, sister, wife, and mother pretty easily, but as an individual, it was harder. So yeah, I finally found a place at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater that makes me feel like me, a misfit and an obsessive-compulsive geek. See you around.
Wow, that gave me chills.
That made me misty, I must say.
Man,
that was
wow.
That
refreshing.
Puts it so it puts a bow on it, where it's just like that's the perfect sentiment. Where how we get along in this world is a challenge, but to have this place where we can come and be ourselves and get out of our heads, being so immersed in it, sometimes it's easy to forget. But man, that is just the most beautiful words.
So many people have said to me over the years, and I've said as much, is ours is a place where so many people who never fit in. The island of misfit toys, as James said, and multiple people will say to me, I'm usually kind of got social anxiety, or I'm socially awkward. And I always laugh and I say, that's all of us here. That's every one of us here. You've found your spot and it's okay.
Yeah.
She said she feels like she belongs. And that's what we want everybody to feel, like they belong.
Yeah. And you can't put a price tag on that. Like feeling like you found your people. It goes so much further than a, traditional theater experience, even a traditional Broadway theater experience. It's incredible. Well, well, well. The Queen has entered the building. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been so lucky with the growth of not just this business, but this family and the people that come into it supporting the shows day in, day out, week in, week out. And this year, we were absolutely graced with the personality, the talent, and the drive of Miss Krista, who is now the newest member of our projection team. Welcome, Krista.
Thank you, Virgil.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. As you guys know, listeners of the show, Krista, the guys on the show, I'm a huge believer in destiny. And a lot of scenarios here at the Mahoning have been incredibly destined and have timing and luck tied into it, where you almost have to look to the skies and thank a higher power, you know? And you coming into the fold was really a perfect timing situation. We haven't done an origin story with you, so why don't you give people like a little mini, like, hey, this is how I came into the fold at the Mahoning.
But make it really surface and honestly not that great, so people will tune into the one that the other one that we have is a solo. It's like, think of it as like a teaser trailer.
A teaser trailer. Well, the teaser trailer.
But like one that's not that great.
How fitting.
Well, I had been going to the Mahoning since 2018, and like most people that go there, I was always very fascinated by what was going on in the projection booth. I had a background in small gauge film production and some handmade filmmaking years ago, but never worked with 35. And unrelated to that, when it happened, I fell in love at the drive-in. I met someone really fantastic there in 2022, and that would be Robert, the projectionist, and
who everybody loves.
Of course, I just loved him a little more than ever. I don't know.
I hope so.
But,
I hope so.
We just connected, and that's its own story in and of itself. But I just watched him work and was fascinated by what he was doing and felt it was just magic show I was allowed to be privy to while I was watching the action in the booth. And it began with me just wanting to be helpful, and he began teaching me some pretty basic things about what goes on in the booth, and first and foremost, the very protective handling of the film, and it kind of blossomed from there. It turned into something I really wanted to do and really could do, so yeah. I don't know how that is for a teaser.
That's amazing. Great. You know, lets people know where your heart lies and your connection to the family even before you were officially on board. And having you in the booth all the time, even before you became officially part of the team, I loved kind of being a fly on the wall and watching your guys' relationship develop along with the growing knowledge of the craft. It was really inspiring to see a couple be able to work together in that close of quarters and really be able to challenge each other, inspire each other, raise each other's bar. And I think it really did do wonders with our presentation this year. Rob became even more focused. He became even more willing to be a part of the show, which I reached out to Rob couple weeks ago and I said, I just want to thank you for being like the ultimate showman on the lot. This might have been after the John Waters introduction, which blew legendary. Everybody's mind and will go down in history. But it really is just like when we talked to Mama Beth, having those personalities up front to greet people as they come in and guide them through this experience, having a loving, caring, all-in character on the mic and leading you through the films as well. It goes so far. And, you know, like I said, I think that's the kind of divine, strange magic. Like, nobody could create a Robert.
Nope.
You know, or plan on a Robert. but everything that he is and brings to the place just elevates the whole show all the way through.
Oh, thank you for saying all of that. That will mean a lot to him as well.
Oh my gosh.
And you're so right.
Yep.
You also DJ'd for the first time this year. Am I incorrect in that?
No, that is correct. Something else Rob encouraged me to do, and he saw how obsessively I create playlists and talk about music. I guess he got a look at my Spotify account and saw I think it's 100 and something playlists on there. That's a problem, but yeah, he encouraged me.
As a DJ, I think you're very knowledgeable, and I loved your voice, the way it sounded, on the microphone, because I'm sitting right there at my desk, and I just think you sounded terrific.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. Coming from you, a professional in the field, that means a lot. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I saw your playlist that you had sent me, the text playlist for, was it an Argento? Was it Bird with a Crystal Plumage? Maybe?
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
And not that I doubted you, but when I saw the playlist, I was like, okay, yeah, she knows her Italian horror film music, because it was just like deep cuts and hits, and it was just like, wow, I wish I was there to hear this. So you've got a lot of fans in the on and off the lot with the DJ stylings as well as the projectionism.
Oh gosh, that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah,
absolutely. But that is my genre. I love that genre of film. So that was really not that difficult for me to put together.
Yeah, as a lover of genre music as well as genre film, and the way that the pre-show has become such a part of the experience, whenever I saw your name on the calendar, I'm just like, oh, here we go. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, thank you, Virgil.
Absolutely.
Yep. Right up my alley for sure, with that kind of dark synth feel. And you did a really good job playing to the themes of the nights and cherry picking great events that really worked for your sensibility.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was only going to sign up if it was something that touched me in a way that inspired, some sort of grouping of music I enjoy sharing. So I was very careful about that.
Well, being that this is the 100th episode celebration, I know the audience who may not have been on the lot and listeners from afar might just be meeting you for the first time. What is your experience with the podcast?
I love the podcast. This is my first time being on one, obviously, but I think I began listening to it when it started because I was an early Patreon member. I believe that was back in 2020. Or was it 2021 when it finally started? But either way, I would tune into those podcasts, and there was a while where I had to do some catching up. And the biggest thing I've loved about the podcast of late is catching up on all the drive-in owner podcasts. You guys do a fantastic job with those. And I guess just being part of the circuitry of a drive-in right now and seeing all the work people are doing and all the decision making and all the balls constantly in the air, it's really interesting to me to hear other perspectives of people running other operations and the highs and lows that they experience as well. So I think that's a really great thing you started and are continuing with the podcast. I have a feeling a lot of people out there find a lot of value in those episodes.
Yeah, we've been hearing that a lot, and it's been such a rewarding push for us. When we jumped into this podcast, the idea was to kind of keep the fire going of the documentary, being that people know us as personalities. They want to see behind the curtain as much as the documentary showed them behind the curtain. And it just kind of has blossomed along with our loves, now that we have become truly obsessed with the drive-in culture and what the Mahoning represents, and, being blessed with the mouthpieces that we have. So we feel a responsibility now to kind of shift the light that's on us to other 35 millimeter outfits, other drive-ins supporting the drive-in culture, other people who, really have the same heart in the same place. So I think we're definitely going to push and continue that series for a long time.
Oh, I hope so. They're very interesting, and I just love them.
And being somebody who started as a fan, is now part of the family officially, what does the Mahoning Drive-In mean to you? I mean, I know you're a film fan, you're a lover of film, but it means something different to everybody.
Oh, I more than once referred to the Mahoning as my church, because whatever concepts of peace and proclamation to something that means so much to you, I experienced there. It's just, I do love film. I love the tangible aspect of film. I've always been someone that is a little saddened by everything careening into this digital world. I remember the first time I drove out to the Mahoning, I was using, I think, Apple Maps, and it led me to your neighbor's driveway.
Yeah,
I didn't know much.
That happen a lot.
I didn't know much about the drive-in at all, and I thought, wow, I guess this really is like a DIY outfit. I mean, is there a screen like behind this house somewhere? Like, is there a farm back there? Like, what is this? And I was like, no, this can't really be right. So, you drive down the road there and you can see the screen from the road. And then I got a sense of the enormousness of what I was about to experience. And it just it filled my heart so much to, my first trip out there was for Weekend of Terror, which shouldn't fill anyone's heart at all, but it really, truly did. The experience was, I grew up going to theaters when film was obviously commonly run, and you just don't think of that until it's gone. And then you realize how precious that was, and the magic show that was happening for you every single time. So to find it in a place that not only was providing that experience again, which for me, there were a few. I used to go to the Lowe's in Jersey City a lot, and that was probably mostly it at the time. And to have that, but also have it outdoors under the stars. I mean, whenever I'm there on a clear evening, almost every time I see a meteor at some point in that sky. If it's clear, it's beautiful. And just all the outdoor sounds that add to the viewing experience, even when the cows get going sometimes, like, it's just really wonderful. And so I guess what it means, I'm gushing, but I found that place and it's like, gosh, I wish I lived closer, because this is such a drive, but I just kept making the drive, and I still am, and I love it.
So it's been a wild season, to say the least. You have been a part of this entire season, whether it's beneficial or not. Any choice memories from this year that kind of pop out, or choice memories in general of the Mahoning?
Meeting so many people there, because I'm such an introvert, believe it or not. And, I'd been going there since 2018 and really didn't talk to anyone until last year. I think, at the end of 2021, maybe, Carl was the first person I ever spoke to there, because he played something on the radio and he DJ'd that I was so shocked to hear anyone play. I went in and I said something, and ever since that, Carl always made a point, like he does, to say hello. He's awesome like that when he meets new people.
Yeah.
But for years, I hadn't really known anyone. In fact, I saw the documentary right after my first visit. I picked up the DVD, and the documentary was wonderful. But all those years, I didn't really retain names and faces. So after I met Rob, I rewatched it. I was like,
hey, this guy.
You were that guy in the documentary.
That's
wild. But no, this season just had so many great events, and just really getting to know the people that put all their heart and soul into the place has been wonderful, because it really is. It's really an effort on everyone's part, and yeah, I'm sure I could cherry pick events that have been particularly special. I'll save one or two for my origin story, but
don't blow it all now.
Yeah.
We hear that across the board. The idea that the Mahoning is the easiest place to make friends and a safe space for people who, aren't easy to come out of their shell. 2 Patreon members came up to me, a couple, on the last night, and we were getting so much love from people. It was a bit overwhelming, but that was their takeaway. They said, we were people who kind of just kept to ourselves and watched TV, and we were homebodies. And, we looked at each other on the way home the other night and said, gosh, we have a lot of friends. We've made so many connections through this place. And, from the crew to the patrons, it's endless. And every single year there is this fresh blood, these people who kind of just come out of nowhere and seemingly feel like they should have been there the whole entire time, So this ever-growing group of little rascals, it's it's hard to put into words, but it's such a blessing to all of us for sure.
And Krista, the first couple times you came in the booth, you would say hi, but you were still kind of in your shell, and you wouldn't say more than a couple of words to me all night. And now you come in and you talk to me like you've known me for years. And I think you've really come out of I think it really brought you, being a projectionist and training there and getting to know all, I think has really brought you out of your shell. I really love the fact that you come in now and just talk to me like you've known me forever. I think it's great.
Oh, I appreciate that, Jeff. I love chatting it up with you. And it feels like you've been such a wonderful mentor in all this whole process. And all three of you have been very encouraging the whole time. So I feel like I've known you longer than I do.
Yeah, this place just brings the best out of people. They rise to the occasion. Yeah. It's worth so much effort and love that the people here put into it. And this team and what we do here, there wasn't really like a how-to. We've kind of created this business model that was untested and have been blessed to find our footing in a lot of ways. But every single year there's more things that we add or more things that we try to hone in on and do better. So the growth aspect of what we do, I think, for people who know us personally through this podcast, it's exciting. It's exciting to see our big wins. It's exciting to see this growth. They feel and are a part of it.
Absolutely.
So what this podcast gives us is really endless. And what this place gives us is really endless.
Oh, I agree.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mark, do you have anything for Krista? Am I forgetting anything?
I'm saving it all for the origin story.
Yeah.
I remember I asked Mark, I said, do you want like a more Marvel or more DC origin story? Because those are very different things. One's much darker than the other.
That's right. That's right.
Just go straight EC Comics and just go for the.
I like that idea. That's more my speed anyway.
Yeah, I feel it. Well, thank you so much for popping in and making the time for us. I'm sure the fans will get a real thrill out of hearing you, and now they have something to look forward to with the upcoming origin story of Krista.
Really teasing that one.
That's right.
No, thank you very much for having me. This is wonderful, and please, congratulations on your 100 episodes, and I can't wait to hear 100 more.
This drive-in theater is radioactive. Now you can hear tonight's show on your AM car radio. Turn your ignition key to the accessory position. This will not drain your car battery. Now turn on your radio and zero in on the following AM station.
Man, what an amazing ride this has been. What else do we got, Marcus, in way of the recordings?
I've got 3 more here. 3 more from, I'm not going to say I saved the best for last because I haven't listened to these. These could be the 3 worst that we got. But there are 3 people near and dear to our hearts. Actually 4. There's 2 in 1 here. We'll start with Mr. Donnie Morgan. If you don't know Donnie Morgan, you might recognize him if you saw him. And if you recognize how amazing our raffles have been this season, I'm going to, in the past, it was me who gathered all of our raffle prizes. And this year, there was an upstart. There was a young upstart who was muscling in on my territory. And frankly, allowed me to do a little less work. So that was pretty cool for me. If you were at our Lost Boys today, as we record this, Donnie sent me a list of what he procured for us for our Lost Boys raffle. And I don't know how many tables it's going to take to display all this stuff. This man has been amazing. If you saw those hunk pins, if you wondered who's this shirtless blonde guy on buttons everywhere around the theater that I keep finding, Donnie Morgan is the man responsible for that. That is a reference to a Patreon screening we had. He's the button master. He's the raffle master. And I don't know what he's going to say, but I guarantee it's probably amusing. And if it's not and it's tragic, I'm sorry I made light of it in advance.
What does the Mahoning mean to me? I tried to write a few things down, but they all sounded kind of cliche. I was saying things like home away from home and my happy place, which it's true, but it just seems too simplistic for a not so simplistic place. I guess it's kind of, if I was Whitey Duvall from 8 Crazy Nights, the Mahoning would be my mall. On the worst day of my life, if the Mahoning was closed, I'd probably sneak in and project a movie on the screen with my own projector. It's my Camp Crystal Lake in my Elm Street. It's not a place that I go to murder teenagers, but if I kept, returning from the dead, I'd gravitate there. The Mahoning is just a special place, and I love it more than I love residuals.
Wow.
Inside joke there, for which there was one created that nobody will understand unless you were at a certain show.
That's great. That's great.
I thanked Donnie last night on the lot because he's one of these guys that he will come and pretty much hang out the whole entire weekend. But because of his connection with the crew and the fact that he's so likable and everybody loves him, he's jumped in and he's helped immensely on the lot with certain projects, things we're doing when we need an extra hand at the gate, and has become a great kind of right hand on these off days when nobody else is around. I'll wake up and bang, there's Donnie. It's really great to have somebody to chat with and, laugh with. And we've really struck up an amazing friendship this year that's really kept me going, So thank you, Donnie. And that goes across the board to so many people that keep the fuel going, burning. It's such a blessing in disguise, I guess, to have these people join us over the years and become a part of the family. It's like they're here for a reason.
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing. These people are so multi-talented in their own way. And if they worked for us, other than just helping, they would certainly have a place here. So it's just very enlightening, very, very heartfelt. I love it.
Who else we got?
We have acclaimed, award-winning, I'm presuming because he does very excellent work, children's book author and illustrator, and Muppet, the Beretta Brothers podcast co-host, impresario of our Mahoning Muppet Take Mahoning show, and so much more, Mr. Gene Beretta.
Hello, 100th episode. I'm going to pick a very personal favorite Mahoning experience that I'm sure many others share. Mahoning has succeeded in organically birthing a community that is at the core of why I keep going back. And what is so powerful about it is that it exists on its own merits, independent of the films that we're actually paying to see. There's an unspoken chemistry there and an understanding that we've all decided to escape to a place that has both a nostalgic comfort, a transcendent relationship with the screen and stars that is relaxing, exhilarating, erotic, and nourishing. And an acceptance for those who want to live unconventionally, as they often do while they're there. I should say while we're there. I can walk past a complete stranger, smile, and be fairly confident that we're both thinking, hey, we made the same pilgrimage tonight. You must be a friend. Twice now, I've gone just to hang out for the few hours before the film and then leave. And I don't even live that close by. It's enough just to visit with all the regulars and then sit with my small group of friends on the front lawn and catch up. But maybe one of the biggest thrills I have is to hear my son ask when we're going back. His drive-in family means a great deal to him too. So I love the movies, but I really love where I see the movies. And I'll see you soon.
Oh,
wow.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, again, just beautiful.
If you haven't listened to the episode of the podcast featuring Gene Beretta and his brother Bill, where we talked about the Muppets and their lives and their podcast and everything else, you must listen to that. Some of the hardest laughter that was recorded by all of us was during that episode of the show.
Oh my God.
You learned so much, and it's so funny. And for me personally, a fantastic Jerry Lewis story in there.
Yes. Oh my
Patreon,
God.
there is a video version of that for a certain tier Patreon members as well, so you can see the visuals on the Jerry Lewis story. But anyway, Gene is quite amazing and incredibly helpful. He recently was able to get us the intro for when we played Coraline just a week ago, and just super, super talented and generous guy.
Yeah, and connected, where he just always wants to give to the shows. And out of the blue, he'll reach out to us and say, hey, I saw you guys just announced this. I know so-and-so. You guys into having this or that? It's again, that destined situation where there's a reason that this guy has become part of the family, and he gives so much to it and brings so much to it that it elevates it to a whole other level. And it goes both ways, like having Ben on the lot, Gene's son, and seeing him truly grow on the lot. He helped us out a couple years with picking up the lot and just hanging out and chatting, just being a really kind of close friend. And that friendship grew into a partnership with Gene, where we teamed up for the Muppets Take Mahoning, which was one of our biggest events of 2023 and birthed an annual. Yeah. So, again, being open to other people's ideas, being open to this ever growing family and not sticking with just what works. I think it really has been a secret of ours to keeping it fresh every single year and adding new elements to it. And really, all the people that we work with are such a treat to work with. That's why we love working with them and choose to work with them on a regular basis. So Gene is a mainstay, and again, just like many of our patrons, such a pure, kind soul that is in this for just all the right reasons. So thank you, Gene, for that.
Yeah, that was terrific. That was terrific.
What's this? What is this? Oh my goodness. Joined by a fan favorite, a visitor many times on this podcast. Welcome the great Rob, projectionist at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. What's up, Rob?
Hey, not too much. It's that weird kind of postseason afterglow. I don't quite know what to do with myself. How about you guys?
The same.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
Extreme same.
Yeah. It's kind of nuts. There's this it's nice to get a break. We've talked about this a couple times. Builds up the anticipation for the fans, but it is like the only way to describe it's like a seasonal depression, where it's so social, hyper social on so many levels. And then you go from that to, you get to kind of be selective with how social you want to be. And it's a weird change of pace, especially in the position where I'm at, where it's like I'm there all the time and it's always always on. So there's big pluses, but man, is it tough. I feel your pain.
And I've come to find that I think of the post-season or the off-season rather as a period to inhale. It's a long inhalation, and then the season is when we exhale. So it's just this constant routine.
I feel like we get stronger every single year. We make inroads, whether it's with new guests or new partners or bringing new people into the fold. And as who we were just visited by recently, your girlfriend, Krista, has been an amazing addition to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. So, gosh, thank you so much for sharing her with us.
You're welcome. I mean, I agree, and I think that I would agree even if it weren't for the inherent bias that I might feel due to the pre-existing relationship, which is inextricable. It probably would have never existed without the drive-in, given that it is because of the drive-in that we met. And it's a unique circumstance that I try and never forget I am extremely privileged to be experiencing.
I think it's beautiful. Yeah.
You
Thank
can
you.
really tell it's your guys' happy place. 9 times out of 10, if you're not running a movie, you guys are there together watching a movie. And that's not something every single person does. You know, you really go out of your way to make sure you have a healthy dose as a fan still, as well as the man on the inside.
I think that that's necessary in order to present movies well. I think you still need to watch movies, and in this case, preferably on film. And it just makes it that much more enjoyable because you do get those periods where you can be entertained as opposed to doing the entertaining. I mean, even when we're not on the clock, if we're at the drive-in, we're all always kind of on, if you get the nomenclature. But
Right.
it's I don't know how to put it into words right now. I mean, there was no infrastructure, there was no plan for how to go about training someone in this kind of circumstance, and I really like how we spearheaded it.
She went out of her way to thank us for how supportive we've been. And, you know, just like a lot of things, it's destined scenario, or feels like a destined scenario, that she came into the fold. I'm sure you feel the same, that she came into the fold at that time and then became a real clutch part of the projection team. And like I told her, also raised your bar in a big way. You know, you showed a whole other side of yourself this year with, as I like to call it, Obi-Wanning, or, you know, kind of showing her the ropes. And it was really inspiring, you know, not just to see that side of you, but to see a couple be able to work like that, because you know, it's not always the case.
Right. And who knew ahead of time that she would take such an interest in wanting to project? I think that's great.
I mean, even she didn't know until she was actually hands-on, knee-deep in it. And I think that probably was the case for me, even though it feels like a million years ago and it's hard to really access those memories in a undiluted form right now. But the way that teaching someone forces you to learn the material even better yourself was refreshing and necessary to keep growing the way I would like to. Anyone who wants to call me an expert, I'm flattered, but no, I am not. I'm still very much learning. Michael's still teaching me, and now Krista is at the point where she is even teaching me some things that I have not yet learned, as far as particular terminology and things that can be found in the George Eastman House's Art of Film Projection book, which she has finished, and I very much have not yet, despite saying I wanted to do so several episodes back, probably several dozen episodes back. And it's been really gratifying and rewarding, and I'm sure the next 6 months are just going to fly by, and we'll be running The Wizard of Oz again before we know it.
Oh yeah.
I think you're right, and she helps you focus. I mean, I think she really helps you focus.
She does. It's a very interesting dynamic in that I'll have to try and put it down into words at some point in the future when I can just kind of clear my head, and that's going to take a while. We just finished the season a week ago,
Right.
not even.
Right.
The dust is still settling. But, I mean, the fact that I don't have words for it, to my mind, is highly complimentary in nature. It's still just kind of surreal. There are so few places in the world that you can run film with the regularity that we do. That alone makes the learning experience almost impossible to achieve at any other location. So it really does feel like sort of a Disney moment, like The Lion King, where the clouds part and the sun shines down on you. It's so rare what we're able to enjoy, and I'm just beside myself.
I agree. I think that's you put it beautifully.
It's a good segue. A lot of this episode, we've been listening to people talk about what the Mahoning Drive-In Theater means to them. Obviously, we're trying to keep it focused on the podcast, but any words that you might have about kind of your unique position as somebody who started as a fan, super fan, connected with the documentary, and now you are a key essential piece to what we do here every weekend?
I think that it's probably a natural evolution in so far as the thing that I think I love the most about movies next to watching them is sharing them. I've always really enjoyed trying to find that right movie. You know, what's going to be the movie I want to watch with my friends? What's the movie I'm going to want to watch with this particular friend versus a group? And I don't quite have the same level of creative control right now. I'm hoping to help more with picking the movies we play in the future, but being able to actually execute the show and do this thing that has been the primary way people have watched movies for over 100 years now. Eventually, that will change if the march of digital projection continues the way it has been. But the attendance for, Avengers Endgame and Barbie notwithstanding, most people over time have watched movies on film, and keeping this form of entertainment and art alive is, it's a calling.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's the way that we present our business and constantly have this push of not converting people, but educating people on the importance of film projection and its history and its connection and the turning points, and why what we do is so much bigger than what your traditional idea of a drive-in is. And I think that's why we've been lucky with our voices and bubbling to the top with the attention. Is I think that really shines through when you're following your heart, like you said, and leading with passion. And I think our whole shift, has been about the preservation of 35 millimeter over the preservation of the drive-in culture, certainly in tandem. So why don't you talk a little bit about the podcast?
Well, I tend to listen to the podcast mostly while I'm working on things for the drive-in. It just sort of merges everything, and it is sort of an accelerant, or it greases the wheels, if you will. So if I have film to inspect, I'm 9 times out of 10 going to be listening to a podcast. And probably 7 out of those 9 times, I'm going to be listening to either this podcast or Carl and Daryl's podcast. And of course, there's a little cross-pollination there anyway. And 100 episodes already. It feels like it's still brand new. And in the scheme of podcasts, it is. But 100 is nothing to sneeze at. So I'm excited to be on more and listen to the ones I haven't. I still haven't listened to the one with the owners of Rico's Nachos, and I've never listened to any of the podcasts that I've been the primary guest on. One day, I'll get over that self-consciousness. But in the meantime, there is still work to do in the off season. There's films to inspect, there's trailers to put together, and I'm excited to catch up on more of those episodes.
Yeah, it seems to never end. And maybe you're a good person to talk about this with. We touched on it a little bit before about the idea of what a podcast is and how retro our appeal is as a business, yet we're using this kind of forward way of promotion with the podcast. Where do you fall with podcasts in general? Is it your bag? I think for us, it started out as a way to extend what the documentary was, but it's allowed us to flex creatively in a lot of ways, and also has given us a place to go to when we need to explain something deeper, and I don't think many businesses are lucky enough to have something like that. So it's been a blessing in disguise.
I agree. I listen to a number of podcasts, and I am so used to listening to our podcast that talking about it now without the music droning on in the background from the intermission reels is strange. That is so integral to it, and the way Mark mixes it is so innately listenable that you could be talking about anything and I would be on it for 4 hours, 5 hours. It doesn't matter how long the episode is. But I think that it's a very it's such an accessible way to approach whatever subject matter you want to consider, because some places would disseminate that information on social media, and I mean that's just so hard to access after the flash in the pan instant gratification cycle of that type of content has passed whatever 24-hour cycle it's on. This is something much more readily, you can pull it up, be it on Spotify, Apple, what have you, and before you know it, you have what you're looking for. And I commend the work that's been done on it. I would like to be able to learn how to do that too, but there's only so many hours in the day, so I'm grateful that we have Mark's chops on hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's fantastic at editing and what he does with the audio, put it all together, and getting rid of all the what you would call dead spots where actually nobody's speaking. He's excellent at that. And being old school like I am, I was surprised at how well the podcast went over. I wasn't so sure at first that it would really grab hold, but it's beyond my expectations. I think it's doing wonderfully, thanks to Mark and all you guys. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's been such a treat. And again, a real tool for us when we needed to explain why we sell out and how the sellouts go, and explain, the certain down and dirty details that, don't make it to the social media. Like we said, the Patreon is very much a way of sharing our personalities through social media and through those outlets, because the social media is constantly flooded with promotion. And the podcast is a big extension of that to allow us to do bigger and better things and connect to people in a deeper way. I mean, the guests that we've had on here are just amazing. The fact that we knew everybody of a certain age has an experience with a drive-in. It just became that thing. And that was kind of the launching point for this, was if we can sit down and talk to anybody, we know we can just anchor the conversation about drive-ins and something's going to come up. So it really has gone incredibly well.
It has.
Well, I said it to Krista. I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done this year, obviously in the projection booth, with the work that you're meant to do under this umbrella, but the going above and beyond, the showmanship of it all is so important to what we do, and I think such an inviting part of what we offer. So what you do on the microphone, what you do getting in costume, what you do just getting into the whole vibe is so appreciated by us.
Absolutely.
It's not innately easy for me to do that, but it's become much easier because I enjoy it so much and because it is so integral to the experience. So I think it was 2 years ago when we did the 1966 Batman movie, and leading up to that, I was listening to a lot of Adam West's performance on that show so that I could channel his intonation and his manner of speaking. And this year, I don't know how to grade myself, but I did my best Macho Man Randy Savage with you performing alongside me. And I did my best Harvey Korman before the opening of the John Waters Filthy Film Festival, and it was as enjoyable as anything there.
Yeah, it was legendary. And one of my favorite memories was doing that back and forth with you, the kind of wrestling feud. But yes, keep rocking, my friend. Keep on doing what you do. You're an inspiration to all of us, and we'll see you very soon.
Savory barbecue beef. Go ahead, fix a sandwich for yourself. Just look at that pure prime beef simmering in that special tangy barbecue sauce. Make a big one, like you do for the customers. Customers? Uh-oh. Somebody got it. Have to fix yourself another.
Savory barbecued beef. There's still plenty for you at the Refreshment Center.
And I'm sure we have a ton more, right?
We have one more in the realm of close personal friends of ours who have podcasts as well, from the, I'm sure, eventually award-winning podcast, Carl and Daryl's Top 5. Carl and Daryl on the Mahoning 100th episode.
Hello, this is Carl and Daryl. You might know us from
the Carl and Daryl Top 5 podcast, or
DJ Madman Carl, or
Film Location Tourist Daryl,
or Lock Crew Daryl,
or
Front Row Regulars.
Front Row Regulars
since for you 2015, I want to say.
Yep.
Me 2016. My first show was Zombie Fest 2.
And I was there for Zombie Fest 1. And we are here to salute
and
Mahoning.
Congratulate. Kudos, salutations, and hearty handshakes for 100 episodes.
Amazing.
Of the Mighty Mahoning podcast.
We love it. We're inspired by it.
We were inspired by it. And in fact, I want to say a direct correlation has sprung from the Mahoning Drive-In.
True that. Will we ever hit 100? We're just on the 10.
Oh,
we're about to hit 10.
We're still infancy.
We're still babies. Baby needs a new
yeah.
I like to say.
And basically our podcast came about because of the Mahoning.
True.
Where did it start, Daryl? In 2016.
2016, we're hanging out on a lot. It's summer afternoon, morning-ish, and we got some shade under the screen.
Yes.
Pulled up some lawn seats and shot the shit about movies. Siskel and Ebert style. And
Yes.
we said, maybe we should record this at some point. And then years later, it seems.
And after we were also a guest,
the-
we were guests twice on the Mahoning podcast.
That's what it led to. Eventually, we took it from the Mahoning Drive-In down to the local diners. And then from there, we got the invite for that first year of the Mahoning Drive-In podcast.
Yes.
We were not only on 1, but 2 episodes.
That is correct.
And from there, we said, we got to take this to the interwebs. We got to get this out there. People are clamoring, at least 4 or 5 of them, for us to do a podcast.
So we have the Mahoning to thank for giving us the push, I guess, and the inspiration. And that's what the Mahoning does. It inspires all sorts of species and people to
shine. Their creativity on the lot. It's an amazing place. We love that place, as you do.
It is my second home. I'm sure a lot of other people's as well. And here's to 100 more.
Agree.
So, and enjoy. See you at the drive-in.
Yeah, for those about to rock, we salute you, Mahoning, on your 100th podcast and many more. We're listening. We're inspired. We love you guys.
And continue to do that voodoo that
you
do so well.
Say goodnight, Carl.
Good night, Carl.
I love that guys so much. Oh,
That is
man.
just a taste of what their podcast is like. If you want to hear two smart, funny guys crack wise about movies and pop culture, it is well worth it. Listen, as a friend, it feels like I'm hanging out with my friends. So I maybe I'm biased, but I really like their show.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
What a treat.
And they both have given endlessly and selflessly of their time to the organization. Daryl is often part of the Black Dragon Fighting Society on the Lot Crew. Oh, should I not have said that name? Now the word will be out. He's part of the Lot Crew. Oftentimes, Carl has helped us out with all kinds of maintenance things and using his decades of expertise to help us. And he's a film collector as well. So it's part of the family, as you like to say.
Yeah. And, it seems to grow every single year, leaps and bounds. And the mainstay folks, the people that have been able to get through all of this this madness that we've gone through over the last 9 going on 10 years is it's truly inspiring. and keeps us going. We just know that we're on the right track, and people are loving and appreciating what we do. And we can't say enough about the love that you guys send us through this podcast. Again, started as a way to connect even further with the fan base, and has been so much more rewarding than we ever could have planned on. So thank you to all of the listeners out there, and everybody who continues to love the Mahoning and has taken the Mahoning into their hearts and continues to support the podcast. We love you guys. Well, it wouldn't be a celebration without some celebrities, am I right? Oh my goodness. How lucky are we to have been connected with so many incredible talents, people who we are honored to call members of the Mahoning family. And I believe we're going to hear from one right now.
Yes, Linnea Quigley first joined us. She's just been a treat since day one when she first showed up on the lot. She came out for VHS Fest, and then she was a secret guest at the Joe Bob Jamboree the next week. Nobody knew she was going to be coming back. And I said to her at that first show, or maybe it was the second show, "You're the only guest that we've had here 2 weeks in a row." And she was just fascinated by the drive-in, super nice and humble and friendly to everybody. We all fell in love with her. And she was she might have been our first celebrity guest on the podcast. She made time for us. She told me at the time that she wasn't really doing press, but for us, she would do it. And she's just been wonderful to us. So she's sent along these words.
Hi, this is Linnea. And the Mahoning Drive-In is one of the most fun drive-ins I've ever been to. And I'm an expert. I grew up in drive-ins. And this one is the ultimate.
My video store self is constantly pinching himself, where it's like, what world do we live in where Linnea Quigley loves and respects our world here at the Mahoning? What a doll she is. And it's worth mentioning, she was there during the whole debacle of the potential buyout from the solar panel farm. So she was with us when we got the news. She was with us when we got the news of the Savior. So she really is somebody who was along for the ride and has taken the Mahoning Drive-In into her soul fully, and is the perfect example of what, again, our fans are. It doesn't matter that she's a mega horror icon. She's also a lover of drive-ins and an expert in drive-ins. She's loved them her whole entire life.
And that's something that I love, and that's the angle we approach celebrity guests for this show. Is we're not going to ask you about the stuff you've talked about all of your career. We're not going to talk about that big thing everybody talks about. We want you to talk to us about drive-ins. And she really connected with that. Ginger Lynn really connected with that, to talk about this aspect of their life that nobody ever talks about with them, that means a lot to them. And they appreciate that we do what we do, and that we can sort of give them back a little of that experience, in their adulthood. And she is, I gave her a projection booth tour right when she first arrived, and she was super into it. And she's always had the attitude of, anything she can do to help us out, she will. And that's really wonderful. And she's very excited to come back. I just saw her post on, somebody commented that we were running Return of the Living Dead recently and tagged her. And she said she can't wait to come back again. And we can't wait to have her back again.
We love you, Linnea. We really do.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.
Again, this journey here at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater has been the trip of a lifetime. The ultimate gratification when it comes to chasing your dreams. And the extension of what we do here on the lot has been such a gift, from Emmy Award-winning Al Minnelli's documentary At the Drive-In, to all the incredible press, to the celebrity guests, and now this podcast. And the fact that we have hit 100 episodes, a milestone that we could have only dreamed of when we first started doing this, again, is the fuel that feeds our fire in our bellies. So thank you guys so much for ever loving the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. And as always, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night and God bless you.